What if everything you've been chasing, the success, the money, the validation, wasn't the point at all? What if, after decades of running, you realized you were sprinting in the wrong direction? Most of us live on autopilot, checking boxes, chasing goals that someone else told us matter. We wait for a sign, for the perfect moment, for life to make sense. But what if that moment never comes? What if clarity only arrives when it's too late to change course? You don't need to waste 10, 20, or 40 years to figure out what actually matters. You can choose to wake up right now. In the next few minutes, you're going to hear life lessons distilled not from theory, but from hard-won experience, truths that shattered illusions and rewired an entire life. These aren't just tips or motivational fluff. They're battle-tested principles that separate those who drift from those who decide. So if you've ever felt stuck, uninspired, or like you're living a version of yourself that doesn't feel true, this is your invitation. Your mindset, your habits, your environment, your time, they're either building your future or burying it. There's no in-between. The difference between regret and fulfillment is just one decision, and this moment, right here, could be that decision. So take a deep breath, let go of yesterday, and lean in, because what you're about to hear has the power to change how you live the rest of your life. Let's begin. They say your thoughts become your reality, and if there's one truth that echoes through the lives of those who've overcome, evolved, and truly transformed, it's this: your mindset is everything. It's the silent architect behind every decision, every reaction, every outcome. Most people drift through life unaware that the lens through which they see the world, whether clouded by fear or clear with hope, is entirely within their control, and yet this invisible force, your mindset, is quietly dictating whether you rise or fall. Think about that for a moment. If your thoughts are the soil, then your mindset is the climate, and nothing grows in toxic weather. But in an environment of belief, resilience, and possibility, even the smallest seeds of change can grow into something extraordinary. At the heart of a powerful mindset is one simple belief: that you can grow, that you are not fixed, that your intelligence, your abilities, your circumstances, no matter how challenging, can be shaped, molded, improved. This is what's called a growth mindset, and it stands in contrast to the fixed mindset, which tells you that your qualities are carved in stone, that if you fail, you've failed as a person, that if you struggle, you're simply not good enough. But here's the truth. The growth mindset says struggle is not a sign of weakness, but a stepping stone. It reframes failure as feedback. It allows you to walk through difficulty with curiosity instead of fear. And that subtle shift changes everything. When you believe in growth, your brain starts to look for paths instead of dead ends. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" The difference is subtle but profound. Life no longer feels like something that's happening to you. It becomes something you're actively shaping. When you view obstacles through the lens of growth, they no longer feel like walls. They feel like weights, heavy, yes, but designed to strengthen you. Your energy moves from resistance to resilience, and slowly, without realizing it, you begin to level up. You see, belief isn't just a nice idea, it's a cognitive engine. When you believe something is possible, your brain starts filtering reality through that belief. You begin to notice resources, solutions, and ideas that you would have missed completely if you believed the opposite. Imagine two people faced with the same challenge. One believes it's the end, the other believes it's a beginning. One sees only limitation, the other sees an invitation to grow. They'll walk two very different roads, even if they start at the same crossroads. That's the power of mindset. Believing in your capacity to grow doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means choosing how you interpret it. A growth mindset doesn't deny struggle, it embraces it. It doesn't run from discomfort, it learns to find meaning in it. The most resilient people aren't those who've avoided pain, but those who faced it, processed it, and turned it into wisdom. And that wisdom only grows in the soil of belief. If you don't believe you can change, you won't take the steps to do it. If you think your effort doesn't matter, you'll stop trying. But if you believe that progress is always possible, you'll keep showing up. Even when it's hard. Even when it's slow. That persistence is what transforms lives. You're not born with a fixed amount of intelligence, talent, or strength. These are not static traits. They're dynamic, responsive, and shaped by the choices you make every day. The more you challenge yourself, the more you grow. The more you fail and learn, the more equipped you become. And yet, so many people hold themselves back because they believe their current self is all they'll ever be. That they're not smart enough, strong enough, worthy enough. But what if that belief isn't truth? It's just a habit, a story you've repeated so many times it became your identity. The good news, you can rewrite it. You can decide today that the story changes. That who you've been does not dictate who you can become. It starts with small shifts, catching those inner voices that whisper doubt and replacing them with possibilities. Saying, "I'm not good at this yet," or "I'm struggling, but I'm learning." These phrases sound simple, even silly, but they are powerful. They train your mind to see potential where it once saw problems. They remind you that growth is not an event, it's a process. One that's messy, non-linear, and absolutely worth the effort. Because every time you push through resistance, you create evidence that you are capable, and that evidence builds confidence. Not the loud, showy kind, but the quiet, steady kind that says, "I've done hard things before, I can do this too." Your mindset doesn't just shape your experience, it shapes your future. Because how you think determines how you act, and how you act determines what results you get. The person who believes they can improve will keep trying, even when progress is slow. The person who doesn't believe will give up at the first setback. Over time, those two mindsets lead to radically different lives, one filled with growth, opportunities, and self-trust, the other filled with excuses, stagnation, and regret. But here's the beautiful truth. Your mindset is not set in stone. You can decide to change it, right now, in this moment. You can choose to believe in your own ability to evolve. To trust that even your biggest flaws are not fixed traits but works in progress. You can stop measuring yourself by your past and start focusing on who you're becoming. And when you do that, the world around you changes too. You'll notice doors where before there were only walls. You'll attract people, paths, and possibilities that reflect your new belief. Because your reality is not just a reflection of what's out there, it's a mirror of what's in your mind. So take this moment, wherever you are, and let it sink in. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are not defined by your failures. You are growing. You are learning. You are becoming. And the more you believe in that truth, the more powerfully it will shape your life. Your mindset is not just a tool. It is the foundation. Build it wisely, nurture it daily, and watch as your entire world begins to shift. Growth is not only possible, it's already happening. All you have to do is believe. There comes a moment in every life, thought quiet, often uncomfortable, when you realize that no one is coming to rescue you. No one is going to knock on your door with a perfect plan, or lift you out of your struggles, or hand you the dream you've been waiting for. And though that realization can feel heavy at first, it is also one of the most liberating truths you will ever embrace. Because in that moment, when you stop looking outward and start looking inward, something powerful shifts. You begin to understand that your life is your responsibility. Your success, your peace, your growth, your future, they're all in your hands. And that means you don't have to wait anymore. You don't have to be chosen or saved or validated. You can begin right now, exactly as you are. For much of life, we're taught to look for someone else to lead the way. We wait for a mentor to show up and guide us, for a partner to make us feel complete, for a boss to notice our worth, or for a lucky break to change our direction. But here's the truth. Waiting keeps you stuck. It hands your power over to people, circumstances, and timing that are outside your control. And while it's human to hope for help, to want support or guidance, it becomes dangerous when it turns into dependency. Because every time you say, "I can't do this until someone helps me," you reinforce the lie that you're not enough on your own. And that lie becomes the cage that keeps you from moving forward. Taking responsibility doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means owning your choices, your responses, and your direction. It means looking at your life, exactly as it is, and asking, what can I do about it? Not, who's to blame? Not, why is this happening to me? But rather, what's within my power to change, to learn, to grow, to improve? This mindset is what separates those who drift from those who build. Because when you stop waiting to be saved, you start saving yourself. You take action, you learn the skills, have the hard conversations, make the tough decisions. You stop being a passenger and become the driver of your own story. There's a certain kind of strength that comes from knowing it's on you, not a harsh, cold kind of strength, but a grounded, unshakable one. You stop chasing shortcuts because you understand that real change takes real effort. You stop pointing fingers at others because blame is a distraction from growth. And you stop fantasizing about a perfect future because you realize the only way to get there is by building it, brick by brick, day by day. That might mean waking up earlier, saying no to distractions, holding yourself accountable, choosing discomfort in the short term for progress in the long term. These are not glamorous choices, but they are transformative ones. When you take full responsibility, you no longer fear failure in the same way. Because failure isn't proof that you're broken. It's proof that you're trying. It's feedback. It's part of the path. And when you own your path, you stop being devastated by setbacks. Instead, you analyze them, adjust, and keep going. That resilience, the ability to keep showing up even when it's hard, is born from the decision to be responsible for your own journey. You no longer need permission to pursue your goals. You no longer need applause to feel worthy. You move because it's your job to move. You grow because it's your duty to grow. And you succeed not because someone gave you a chance, but because you gave yourself one. Responsibility is not a burden, it's a gift, because it means you're not at the mercy of your past. You're not defined by what others did or didn't do. You're not limited by your circumstances. You can choose new thoughts, new habits, new direction. You can rewrite the story. And the moment you stop saying, "I'll try," and start saying, "I will," the entire tone of your life changes. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to act with purpose. And most importantly, you begin to build a life that reflects who you truly are, not who the world told you to be. Many people live their whole lives waiting to feel ready, waiting for the right time, waiting for someone to give them a sign. But the truth is, clarity comes from action, not from waiting. And no one is more qualified than you to begin. You have what it takes. Not because it's going to be easy, but because you're willing to do the work. You're willing to face yourself, to be honest about what needs to change, and to step into the discomfort of growth. That willingness is rare. It's powerful, and it's enough to change everything. Sometimes the hardest part is letting go of the illusion that someone else has the answers, that someone else will fix what's broken. But once you do, you stop being a victim of life and start becoming the author of it. You make peace with the past and take charge of the present. You stop waiting for conditions to be perfect and start taking imperfect action. And in doing so, you realize that no one is coming because you are already here, and you are more capable than you know. So if you're feeling stuck, uncertain, or overwhelmed, pause for a moment. Take a breath. Look around at your life, not with judgment, but with honesty. What needs to change? What have you been waiting for? And what can you do today, however small, that moves you forward. It doesn't have to be dramatic. One decision, one step, one moment of courage is all it takes to begin. And when you begin, momentum builds, confidence grows, and the version of you that once felt powerless begins to disappear, replaced by someone who knows their worth, who owns their life, who doesn't wait to be rescued, because they've already rescued themselves. This is your moment, not tomorrow, not someday, right now. No one is coming to do it for you, but that's not a reason to despair, it's a reason to rise. Because it means the power has always been in your hands, and today is the perfect day to start using it. We all love the feeling of motivation, that rush of energy, that burst of inspiration that makes you feel unstoppable. It's that spark that pushes you to start a new project, sign up for the gym, or finally commit to changing your life. But what happens when that spark fades? What happens on the days when you wake up tired, when your mind is clouded, when your emotions don't cooperate? That's where most people stop. They wait for motivation to return, as if it were some magical fuel that needs to be refilled before they can move forward. But if you want to create a life of meaning, achievement, and consistency, you must understand one unshakable truth. Discipline beats motivation every time. Motivation is like the wind. It comes and goes. Some days it's behind your back, pushing you forward with ease. Other days it's nowhere to be found. And if you rely solely on it, your progress will be just as unpredictable. But discipline is the engine. It doesn't rely on the weather. It doesn't ask how you feel. It doesn't wait for inspiration. It shows up. Every day, quiet, steady, reliable. It's the part of you that says, I don't feel like it, but I'll do it anyway. And that mindset, that ability to act despite how you feel, is what separates wishful thinking from real, lasting transformation. Discipline is the muscle of your mind. It's built through repetition, through doing the hard things over and over until they become a part of who you are. Waking up early when you want to sleep in. Showing up to work on your craft even when you're uninspired. Choosing the healthy meal when the junk food is calling your name. These small decisions, made consistently, create a life that's grounded, resilient, and powerful. Because when you no longer need to feel good to do good, you've unlocked a level of freedom that few people ever reach. We often chase motivation like it's the answer. We scroll through social media looking for the perfect quote, the perfect speech, the perfect story to get us fired up. And for a moment, it works. You feel that surge. You want to run faster, lift more, create something amazing. But then, life happens. Stress shows up. Distractions creep in. Your energy dips. And that motivational fire burns out. So you're back at the beginning, searching for another spark. This cycle is exhausting. But discipline breaks that cycle. Discipline doesn't care how inspired you are. It only asks, did you show up? Think about the people you admire, the athletes, the artists, the entrepreneurs, the leaders. It's easy to think they're always motivated, but the truth is they've just mastered the art of showing up even when they're not. They've trained themselves to act when it's hard, to follow through when it's boring, to commit when no one's watching. That's discipline. That's where the magic happens, not in the grand cinematic moments of motivation, but in the quiet, unglamorous grind of daily action. The reason discipline matters so much is because your goals don't care how you feel. The work still needs to be done. The bills still need to be paid. The habits still need to be built. The health still needs to be maintained. If you only take action when you feel like it, your results will be inconsistent at best and non-existent at worst. But if you train yourself to do the work no matter what, the results will come. Not immediately, not perfectly, but inevitably, because consistency always wins in the long run. Discipline is also a form of self-respect. It's how you prove to yourself that your goals matter, that your time is valuable, that your future is worth working for. Every time you follow through on a promise you made to yourself, even when it's hard, you build trust. and that trust becomes the foundation of your confidence. You start to believe in yourself, not because everything is going right, but because you know you'll keep going when things go wrong. There will be days when you're tired, days when you're overwhelmed, days when every part of you wants to quit. Those are the most important days, because those are the days that define you. Anyone can take action when it's easy, but showing up when it's hard, that's what makes you unstoppable. That's what builds character. That's what shapes your identity. And over time, those tough decisions add up. They become who you are. They create momentum, and that momentum carries you through the seasons when motivation disappears completely. It's important to remember that discipline doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean never slipping up or never feeling discouraged. It means coming back, over and over. Even when you fall off track, even when you lose focus, discipline says, begin again. Without guilt, without shame, just commitment, just effort, just one more try. And the best part is, discipline is not a trait you're born with. It's something you build, slowly, deliberately, through small choices, through planning ahead, through removing distractions, through setting systems that support your goals even on bad days. It's not about forcing yourself through willpower alone. It's about designing a life that makes the right thing easier to do. You prepare your meals ahead of time, so you don't eat junk in a moment of weakness. You schedule your workouts so they're non-negotiable. You limit time on your phone so your mind stays clear. Discipline becomes easier when your environment supports it. So the next time you're tempted to wait for motivation, stop. Remind yourself that action leads to emotion, not the other way around. If you want to feel motivated, move. Take a step, do the smallest task, build momentum, and soon enough the feeling will follow. But even if it doesn't, you'll still be moving forward. You'll still be becoming the kind of person who does what needs to be done, regardless of how they feel. In the end, discipline is a gift you give to yourself. It's the quiet promise that says, I've got you. It's the voice that shows up when your mind is tired and your heart is uncertain. It's the force that keeps you steady through the chaos, and it's the reason that one day you'll look back and realize you didn't need more motivation. You just needed to trust yourself enough to keep going. Discipline wins, every time, and it will carry you further than any burst of motivation ever could. We often imagine success as a grand, explosive moment, a breakthrough, a viral idea, a massive leap that changes everything overnight. It's a tempting picture, but in reality, greatness doesn't arrive all at once. It's built quietly, patiently, through small daily improvements that seem almost insignificant in the moment. These tiny steps may not look impressive at first. In fact, they may look so small that they're easy to ignore, but over time they create a compound effect, slowly but surely transforming who you are, what you're capable of, and the life you live. This is the quiet power of consistency, and it always outperforms short bursts of intensity. The truth is, intensity is seductive. It gives us a rush. We love dramatic beginnings, new diets, ambitious goals, bold declarations of change. But what happens after the initial excitement fades? What happens when it's no longer fun, or fast, or easy? That's where most people stop. They lose steam, they get discouraged, and they return to old patterns. Why? Because they bet on intensity. But intensity without consistency burns out quickly. It's like a firework, bright and exciting for a second, but gone in an instant. Consistency, on the other hand, is like a candle. It may not be flashy, but it burns steady, lasting far longer than anything fueled by a moment of passion alone. The power of small daily improvements lies in their simplicity. You don't have to change your life in a day. You just have to do something meaningful every single day. One page read, one workout completed, one task checked off, one kind word spoken. These small acts may seem ordinary, but over weeks, months, and years, they add up to extraordinary transformation. And what's more, because they're sustainable, They become part of who you are. You stop seeing progress as something you chase and start seeing it as something you live. This approach frees you from the pressure to be perfect, because when you understand the value of small, consistent actions, you no longer need to wait for the perfect time. You don't need to overhaul everything at once. You just need to begin. Start where you are, with what you have, and focus on doing the next right thing. That's it, day after day, brick by brick. You'll be amazed at how much ground you can cover, not in a sprint, but in a steady walk that never stops. It's helpful to think of your habits like seeds. Each positive action you take is a seed planted. You may not see growth right away. You may not feel like it's making a difference. But beneath the surface, something is happening. Roots are forming. Foundations are being laid. And when the time is right, that tiny seed will break through the ground and become something real, something visible, something strong. But none of that can happen if you don't plant the seed and water it daily. Growth takes time, and the only way to guarantee that time works in your favor is to keep showing up. Consistency builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on a small commitment, you're telling yourself, I can depend on me. And that inner trust becomes the foundation of self-confidence. You no longer have to rely on motivation or inspiration, because you know you'll take action regardless. That kind of reliability is rare, and it's powerful. It makes you unstoppable, not because you move fast, but because you never stop moving. There's a common mistake people make when chasing progress. They overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in a year. They try to cram months of effort into a few intense days, only to burn out and quit. But success is not about speed. It's about direction. Are you moving forward? Even slowly. Are you getting 1% better each day? Because if you are, that's enough. In fact, if you improve by just 1% every day for a year, you'll be 37 times better by the end of it. That's the math of progress. And it's far more powerful than any short-term sprint. Think about your body. You don't get in shape by working out for 6 hours once a month. You get in shape by moving your body every day. Think about your mind. You don't become wise by reading one book in a weekend. You become wise by learning something new every day. Think about your relationships. You don't build deep connections through one big gesture. You build them through consistent presence, honesty, and care. Everything meaningful in life, health, knowledge, love, success, is built through small, repeated efforts. The key is not to stop. Of course, consistency doesn't mean every day is perfect. Some days will be messy. Some days you'll only be able to give 50%. That's okay, because 50% effort on a hard day is better than 0% effort on any day. The point isn't to be flawless, it's to be faithful. Faithful to your habits, faithful to your growth, faithful to your future. Even if the progress feels slow, keep going. You are building something real, something strong, something no burst of intensity can ever replace. What's beautiful about this mindset is that it removes the drama. You don't have to wake up and feel heroic every day. You just need to do what needs to be done. No big speeches, no perfect conditions, just quiet, steady effort. That's the kind of effort that builds legacies. And over time, others will look at your life and call it discipline or grit or natural talent. But you'll know the truth. It wasn't any of those things. It was simply a choice, made over and over, to keep going. So let today be another step, not a giant leap, not a revolution, just a step. Read one page, drink one glass of water, meditate for 1 minute, write one paragraph, choose one healthy meal, move your body for 10 minutes. Pick one small thing that brings you closer to who you want to become, and do it. Then tomorrow do it again. That's how change happens. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Remember, small doesn't mean insignificant, and slow doesn't mean stuck. It means sustainable. It means lasting. It means real. Keep going. You're doing more than you think, and one day you'll look back and realize those tiny efforts, they weren't so tiny after all. They were the reason everything changed. We're taught to fear failure, to avoid it, to treat it like the end of the road, a dead end, a personal shortcoming. We hear it in the way people talk about failure, like it's shameful, something to hide or cover up. But what if that belief is the very thing holding you back? What if failure is not the opposite of success, but the path to it? What if failure isn't the end, but the beginning of something greater? The truth is, failure is one of the most valuable teachers you will ever have. It's not something to be feared. It's something to be respected, to be studied, to be used, because inside every failure is a lesson, and inside every lesson is a step forward. When you fail, it means you tried, it means you moved, you took action, you stepped outside your comfort zone, and that alone puts you ahead of most people, because so many are too afraid to even begin. Failure at its core is proof that you had the courage to show up. It's not weakness, it's effort, and effort is always worthy of respect. You cannot grow without it, you cannot learn without it, because real growth doesn't come from doing everything right. It comes from getting things wrong, reflecting on what happened, and choosing to try again. That process of falling, learning, and rising is the engine of all true success. Think about every great achievement in history. Behind every invention, every discovery, every breakthrough, there were failures. And not just one, dozens, sometimes hundreds. Thomas Edison famously said he didn't fail 1,000 times while inventing the light bulb. He succeeded in finding 1,000 ways it wouldn't work. That's not just a clever quote, it's a mindset. It's the mindset of someone who understands that failure is not personal. It's data, it's information, it's feedback from the universe saying, try again, but this time, try differently. When you can see failure through that lens, it loses its sting. It becomes a tool. Each mistake becomes a map. Each disappointment becomes direction. Instead of making you bitter, it makes you better. It humbles you, sharpens you, teaches you things success never could. Because success feels good, but it rarely pushes you to reflect. Failure forces reflection. It asks hard questions. It exposes weak spots. It shines a light on what needs to change. And if you're willing to listen, to lean into the discomfort, you will grow in ways success alone could never teach you. But this only happens if you're willing to change your relationship with failure. Most people avoid it because they believe it says something about who they are, that if they fail, they're not good enough, not smart enough, not talented enough. But failure is not about identity, it's about process. It doesn't mean you're incapable, it just means there's more to learn. Everyone fails. The difference is that successful people don't let failure define them. They don't internalize it, they analyze it, they use it. They see it as a step, not a stop. If you look closely at the most resilient people, the ones who keep going when others give up, you'll find one thing in common. They've made peace with failure. They've learned to expect it, even welcome it, not because they enjoy falling, but because they understand its role in the journey. They know failure isn't something to get through once, it's something you'll encounter again and again, each time at a new level, and each time it brings with it a lesson perfectly tailored to the next version of yourself. Failure doesn't just reveal your weaknesses, it reveals your strength. It shows you how badly you want something. It tests your commitment. It asks, are you willing to keep going, even when the path isn't easy? That's where character is built, not when everything is going your way, but when it's not, and you choose to keep moving anyway. That persistence, that ability to rise after a fall, is more valuable than any shortcut or quick win, because when you finally reach your goal, you'll have earned it, and you'll be strong enough to hold it. It's important to remember that failure is not just for beginners, it's part of every level. The stakes may change, but the principle remains the same. Whether you're launching your first business or your fifth, whether you're starting your first workout or training for your 10th marathon, Failure will be there, whispering doubts, pointing to obstacles, asking if you really want this, and every time you'll have a choice. You can let it stop you, or you can let it shape you. Use your failures as checkpoints, markers of progress, signals that you're on the edge of something new. When something doesn't go your way, pause, reflect, ask, what can I learn from this? What did I miss? What can I do better next time? That single shift from I failed to I learned is one of the most empowering choices you can make. It takes the power away from fear and gives it back to you. It transforms failure from something that breaks you into something that builds you. Don't let the fear of failure keep you from trying. The biggest regret most people carry isn't that they failed. It's that they never started. They stayed safe, comfortable, hidden, and in doing so, they missed out on the very experiences that could have shaped them. Life is not about avoiding failure. It's about embracing the messiness of growth, about showing up again and again, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And remember, no one sees the full picture. We often compare our behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. We see their success, but not the sleepless nights, the rejected ideas, the countless times they almost gave up. But make no mistake, those stories are there. Every success you admire is built on a foundation of failures. What separates those who make it from those who don't isn't luck or talent. It's persistence. It's learning. It's failing forward. So the next time you stumble, don't run from it. Don't shrink. Stand tall. Face it. Learn from it. Let it make you stronger. Let it teach you what success never could. You are not your mistakes. You are not your setbacks. You are not your failures. You are the one who keeps rising, the one who keeps learning, the one who chooses to grow. Because in the end, failure is not the enemy of success. It's the partner, the teacher, the necessary step that gets you where you're meant to go. Don't avoid it. Don't resent it. Use it. And let it move you closer to the person you're becoming. We all have goals, big dreams, visions of the life we want to create, the career we aspire to build, the body we want to strengthen, the relationships we long to deepen, the peace we hope to feel. These goals live in our minds and hearts like bright, distant stars, and while they're beautiful to look at, they won't move us forward on their own. Because goals set direction, but habits determine destination. No matter how high your goals are, you will always fall to the level of your habits, not because you lack desire, but because, in the end, your daily actions are stronger than your intentions. It's a humbling truth, but a powerful one. Your future is not created in bursts of inspiration. It's shaped in quiet, consistent moments. It's formed in the tiny choices you make every day. Choices so small they often go unnoticed. Hitting snooze or getting up, scrolling endlessly or reading a chapter, complaining or creating, putting it off or getting it done. Each of these moments plants a seed, and over time those seeds grow into the structure of your life, not all at once, not overnight, but gradually, through repetition, through pattern, through habit. We tend to think of habits as routines, but they are more than that. Habits are who you become when you're not thinking. They are the automatic behaviors that shape your days and eventually your destiny. If you want to change your life, don't start with your goals, start with your habits. Because habits are the foundation that goals are built on. Without the right habits, even the best goals will collapse. With the right habits, even the smallest goals can turn into something extraordinary. Goals are about what you want. Habits are about what you do. You can write down your dreams, visualize success, even speak affirmations into the mirror every morning. But if your habits don't match your goals, your life won't either. If your goal is to be fit, but your habits are built on skipping workouts and eating without intention, you won't get there. If your goal is to write a book, but your habit is waiting for inspiration instead of writing consistently, the book will never come to life. The outcomes you want are always tied to the systems you follow, and those systems live in your habits. This is not to say that goals aren't important. They give you direction, they inspire you, they help you clarify your vision. But it's your habits, the actions you repeat daily, that actually move you forward. Your goal may be to become a leader, but your habit of listening deeply and showing up with integrity will make that a reality. Your goal may be to find peace, but your habit of creating quiet space each day, of breathing, reflecting, and slowing down, that's what delivers peace. It's not the dream that builds your future. It's the discipline to keep going when no one is watching. The beauty of habits is that they don't require perfection. They require consistency. It's not about doing something huge. It's about doing something daily. Just 5 push-ups, just 10 minutes of reading, just one honest conversation. These small actions may feel insignificant in the moment, but repeated over weeks and months, they stack up, they build momentum, and soon you're no longer just dreaming of the life you want, you're living it. Not because of one massive shift, but because of 1,000 small decisions made with care and commitment. Your habits also shape your identity. Every time you act in alignment with the person you want to become, you cast a vote for that identity. If you want to be a writer, write something, even a sentence. If you want to be healthy, make one good food choice. If you want to be disciplined, follow through just once today. These acts may seem small, but they matter, because identity is not built through declarations. It's built through evidence, and habits are the evidence your future self will thank you for. But if you're not intentional, your habits will be shaped by default instead of by design. Distractions are everywhere. So are excuses. It's easy to fall into reactive habits, waking up and immediately checking your phone, numbing stress with food or entertainment, putting off what matters in favor of what's easy. These habits don't ruin your life in a day, but over time they create distance between you and the life you really want. That's why awareness is key. You can't change what you don't observe. Start noticing your patterns, start questioning them, and when necessary, start rewriting them. Creating new habits doesn't have to be overwhelming. Start small. Focus on what's sustainable, not what's flashy. A habit that's easy to repeat will always outperform one that's intense but unsustainable. Make it obvious, make it accessible, make it part of your identity, and most importantly, celebrate it. Reinforce the habit not just with repetition, but with recognition. You are rewiring your brain, and that process deserves acknowledgement. There will be days when your motivation is low, days when you feel off track. That's normal. That's human. Don't let one missed day turn into a missed week. Don't let a slip become a slide. The power of habits lies in your ability to return, to recommit, to begin again, gently and without guilt. Progress is not linear, but persistence is powerful. Keep showing up, keep casting those votes, keep choosing the future you want, one decision at a time. And remember, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. So build wisely, build intentionally, let your habits reflect not just where you are, but where you want to go. Let them remind you daily of the person you're becoming, because in the end, your life is a reflection of what you do consistently, not what you hope for, not what you plan for, but what you practice. So start today with one small step, one conscious action, one habit that serves the future version of you, and then do it again tomorrow and the day after that, because this is how your future is built, not in giant leaps, but in quiet daily choices. Your habits are shaping your story. Make them count. We often think success is something we earn through talent, hard work, and discipline. And while those things matter deeply, there's another factor, often overlooked, that shapes who we become just as powerfully: the people around us. Your environment doesn't just influence your mood, it influences your mindset, your ambition, your standards, and ultimately your future. The truth is simple and profound. You become like the people you spend the most time with. Their habits become your habits. Their beliefs begin to shape your own. Their energy either fuels your growth or drains it. Take a moment to consider the 5 people you interact with most often. Are they building you up or holding you back? Do they challenge you to be better, or do they quietly encourage you to stay the same? Are they examples of the kind of life you want to live, or warnings of what happens when you settle? These are not easy questions to ask, but they are necessary, because if your circle is not aligned with your vision, your growth will always feel like a fight, like swimming upstream, and success, no matter how deeply you want it, becomes that much harder to reach. This is not about judgment, it's about awareness. You don't need to cut people out with harshness or resentment, but you do need to become intentional. Not everyone in your life is meant to walk with you forever. Some people are part of your past, some are part of your comfort zone, and some are simply not ready to grow in the same direction. And that's okay. Letting go is not about thinking you're better, it's about honoring where you're going and choosing to protect the energy and focus required to get there. When you surround yourself with people who inspire and challenge you, something changes. You begin to think bigger. You start to raise your standards. You hold yourself accountable. Not just because you want to, but because you're surrounded by others who are doing the same. You learn faster, you grow stronger, you stay focused. The right people don't just support you, they elevate you. Their presence alone reminds you of what's possible. Their discipline motivates you to stay consistent, their feedback makes you sharper, and their example gives you proof that growth is not just a dream, it's doable. We've all experienced it in subtle ways. Spend time with someone negative and your energy dips. Spend time with someone driven and you feel more focused. It's not magic, it's human nature. We absorb the energy of those around us, often without realizing it. And that's why being intentional with your circle is not just helpful, it's essential. You don't need a crowd. You need a few good people who see your potential, believe in your vision, and are walking their own path of growth. People who don't just talk about goals, but live them. People who are not afraid to be honest, to challenge you, and to call you out when you're slipping. Because real support isn't always comfortable, but it's always valuable. Surrounding yourself with the right people also helps you move through seasons of doubt. There will be moments when you question your path, when fear creeps in, when your motivation wavers. In those moments, your circle matters more than ever. The wrong people will feed your fear. They'll remind you of your limits. They'll echo your doubts. But the right people will remind you of your strength. They'll hold the vision for you when you can't see it yourself. They'll speak life into your goals, even when you feel tired or unsure. And that kind of support is priceless. Sometimes we stay in the wrong circles because we're afraid of being alone. We think it's better to be surrounded by familiar faces than to walk solo. But loneliness surrounded by people who don't understand your growth is still loneliness. And sometimes you have to walk alone for a while to find the people who truly align with you. That season may feel quiet, it may feel uncomfortable, but it's not a punishment. It's preparation. It's space for clarity, for reflection, for attracting the right relationships into your life. And when you meet those people, you'll understand why you waited. Your environment includes more than just people. It also includes the conversations you consume, the content you watch, the voices you listen to. Choose those inputs wisely. If you want to think like a leader, fill your mind with the words of those who've walked that path. If you want to stay focused, tune into voices that challenge complacency. Don't just be careful with who you spend time with, be careful with what you allow to shape your thinking. Every input is either fueling your growth or feeding your stagnation. The beautiful part is that you don't need to find perfect people, just intentional ones, people who are doing the work, who are showing up, who are honest about their struggles and committed to rising through them. Real growth comes from real people, not those who pretend to have it all figured out, but those who are willing to keep learning. That kind of energy is contagious. When you see someone showing up every day, despite the odds, It inspires you to do the same. When you witness consistency, resilience, and passion, you begin to mirror it, and slowly, without even trying, you rise. There's a saying that goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And while growth requires personal responsibility, it also thrives in community. The journey is lighter when it's shared. The challenges feel smaller, the wins feel greater, and the path becomes less lonely. So find those people. Seek out the ones who are building something, healing something, growing something. Be the kind of person who adds value, who uplifts, who supports, because the best way to attract a powerful circle is to be someone who belongs in one. In the end, success is not just about what you do, it's also about who you do it with. Choose your circle with intention. Protect your peace. Surround yourself with those who remind you of your strength, challenge you to grow, and walk beside you on the path of becoming. Because the people around you aren't just part of your journey, they are shaping the person you become along the way. Health is something we often take for granted, but until it begins to fade, then suddenly everything else takes a back seat. The goals, the ambitions, the deadlines, they all seem less urgent when your body or mind is calling out for attention. That's because at the core of it all, health is the true foundation. It is the base upon which everything else in your life is built. Your energy, your focus, your ability to work, to think clearly, to show up for others, to pursue your dreams, all of it depends on your physical and mental well-being. Without health, even the greatest opportunities can feel like burdens. But with health, even the hardest challenges become manageable. Your body is your home. It carries you through life. It absorbs your stress, it reflects your habits, and it quietly responds to everything you feed it, physically, mentally, and emotionally. It doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for attention, for care, for respect. When you nourish it, move it, and rest it well, it rewards you with clarity, strength, and vitality. But when you neglect it, when you push past your limits, fill it with toxins, ignore its signals, it will eventually push back, often in ways that force you to stop and reevaluate everything. Physical health isn't just about looking good or fitting into a certain size. It's about feeling alive. It's about waking up with energy. It's about having the stamina to do the things that matter to you, whether that's building a business, raising a family, traveling the world, or simply enjoying your days without constant fatigue. Movement, nutrition, hydration, and sleep. These are not luxuries. They are essentials. They are daily votes you cast for a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. But health isn't just physical. Your mental and emotional wellness are just as critical, sometimes even more so. You can eat all the right foods, exercise daily, and still feel overwhelmed, anxious, or disconnected. That's because true health requires balance. It asks you to care for your inner world just as much as your outer one. Your thoughts, your emotions, your stress levels, your relationships. They all shape your well-being, and just like your physical health, your mental health thrives with consistency, care, and awareness. We live in a world that often glorifies hustle and overlooks rest. A culture that praises productivity but neglects peace. And while working hard is admirable, doing so at the expense of your health is not sustainable. Burnout doesn't make you more successful. It makes everything harder. It clouds your thinking, drains your joy, and turns your passion into pressure. That's why prioritizing health is not a distraction from your goals. It's the fuel that powers them. When your body is strong and your mind is clear, you operate at a higher level. You think better, you create better, you connect better. Everything improves when you feel good. Taking care of your health is also an act of self-respect. It's how you tell yourself, I matter. It's how you show up not just for your responsibilities, but for your life. It doesn't mean you have to live in the gym or eat perfectly clean every meal. It means making small, sustainable choices that support your well-being. Drinking more water, getting enough sleep, taking time to breathe deeply, saying no when you're stretched too thin, reaching out for help when you need it. These may seem like simple actions, but over time they create a foundation of strength and balance that supports everything else you do. Mental wellness is especially important in today's world. We are constantly bombarded with information, comparison, noise, and pressure. Anxiety and depression are on the rise, and yet many people still feel ashamed to speak about their mental struggles. But your mind deserves the same care as your body. You wouldn't ignore a broken bone, so don't ignore emotional pain, chronic stress, or mental fatigue. Practice mindfulness, journal your thoughts, disconnect from screens when you need to, surround yourself with people who support you, and don't hesitate to seek professional guidance if you need it. Taking care of your mind is not weakness, it's wisdom. Health is also about alignment. When your body and mind are in sync, you make better decisions. You trust yourself more. You feel grounded instead of scattered. That balance allows you to show up fully, not just for work or responsibilities, but for the moments that matter most. Playing with your children, laughing with friends, walking outside and feeling truly present. These moments don't require wealth or status. They require energy, clarity, and presence. And health is what makes those things possible. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is the habit of checking in. Ask yourself regularly, how do I feel? Physically, mentally, emotionally? Where am I depleted? What needs more attention? What small change can I make today to move toward balance? It doesn't have to be drastic. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just consistent, just intentional. That kind of self-awareness practiced over time will change your life. And remember, you don't have to wait for a health scare to make health a priority. You don't have to wait for burnout to start resting. You don't have to wait for a crisis to start caring. The earlier you begin, no matter where you are right now, the more empowered you become. Because health is cumulative. Every small act adds up. Every better choice builds momentum, and the more you invest in your well-being, the more equipped you are to handle whatever life brings. You can't control everything in life, but you can control how you care for yourself, and that care becomes a ripple effect. It touches every area of your life, your work, your creativity, your relationships, your dreams. When you're well, everything else becomes more possible. And that's why health is not a side quest, it is the foundation, the baseline, the starting point, the one thing that makes all the other things sustainable. So take care of yourself, not just for the sake of your health, but for the sake of your entire life. Because when your body is energized and your mind is at peace, you become unstoppable. You think clearly, you love deeply, you live fully. And that is a kind of success that can't be measured, but it can always be felt. We grow up surrounded by the idea that money is the end game, that if you earn more, save more, accumulate more, you win. It's printed in the magazines, whispered in the culture, echoed in the minds of generations. Money becomes the symbol of success, of safety, of self-worth. But here's the truth many people learn too late. Money is not the goal. It never was. Money is a tool. A powerful one, yes, but a tool nonetheless. Like any tool, its value lies in how you use it. And if you chase money for its own sake, you'll eventually find that having more doesn't always mean living more. Money should serve your life, not the other way around. It should be used to create freedom, to buy back your time, to relieve stress and open doors. It should give you the space to focus on what truly matters: your health, your relationships, your passions, your purpose. Used wisely, money can elevate your experiences, support your values, and help you build a life filled with peace and possibility. But when money becomes the goal instead of the means, it can easily become a trap. It can lead you to sacrifice the very things you hoped it would provide: joy, balance, connection, meaning. Many people climb the ladder of financial success only to realize it's leaning against the wrong wall. They spend years working for a number in a bank account, thinking that number will one day unlock happiness. But happiness doesn't come from digits. It comes from how those digits support the life you want to live. Money can't buy peace of mind. It can't buy a sense of purpose. It can't buy time with your family or fulfillment in your work or a quiet morning without anxiety. But it can create the conditions where those things become easier to access, if you're intentional about how you use it. It's not about demonizing money. Money is neutral. It has no character of its own. It's not good or bad. It simply reflects and amplifies the choices of the person holding it. In the hands of someone grounded, generous, and clear on their values, money can do incredible good. It can support causes, build communities, create opportunities, and offer relief. In the hands of someone consumed by fear or ego, it can become a weapon of comparison, greed, and endless striving. So the real question is never just, how much money do I want? It's, what kind of life do I want money to support? Using money wisely starts with clarity. What matters most to you? What experiences do you want to have? What kind of freedom do you want to create? For some, it's the ability to travel and see the world. For others, it's having the space to pursue creative work without worrying about bills. For many, it's providing security for their loved ones or giving back to causes they care deeply about. There's no one right answer, but there is a right mindset, one that sees money as a bridge to meaning, not the meaning itself. This mindset also changes how you approach earning. When you see money as a tool rather than a trophy, you stop chasing it blindly. You begin to ask better questions. Is this work aligned with my values? Does it support the life I want to live? Am I trading my time for something that's actually fulfilling or just more income at the cost of my well-being? You realize that a high paycheck means little if it comes with high stress and low peace, that a modest income, used intentionally, can provide more freedom than a high one mismanaged or misaligned with your true self. The same applies to spending. When money is a tool, you stop spending to impress others and start spending to support yourself. You no longer buy things to keep up with appearances. You buy things that enrich your life, things that bring comfort, learning, connection, and joy, experiences over status, meaning over image. You become more thoughtful, more grounded, more in tune with what truly adds value to your life. And then there's the power of saving and investing, not for the sake of hoarding, but for the sake of building future freedom. When you save, you're not just putting money aside, you're giving your future self options. You're creating breathing room. You're buying time to rest, to explore, to pivot if needed. That's what financial wellness really is, not just wealth, but flexibility. The ability to make choices from a place of stability rather than desperation. Generosity also becomes easier when you view money as a tool. When you're no longer trying to prove your worth through what you own, you're more open to sharing. You realize that giving, whether it's time, resources, or support, is one of the most fulfilling things you can do with money. Helping someone in need, investing in someone's dream, supporting a cause that reflects your values. These are the acts that make money feel truly meaningful. Because when you give with intention, you don't lose value, you create it. We live in a world that often equates wealth with worth, but real worth has nothing to do with your net worth. It's about who you are, how you treat others, and how you use what you have, whatever you have, to make your life and the lives of others better. You could have millions in the bank and still feel empty, or you could live with modest means and feel rich in purpose, peace, and connection. The difference lies in how you think about money and what you expect it to do for you. Money doesn't define your success. What you do with it does. How you earn it, how you spend it, how you save and give and grow with it. That's what matters. So use money well. Let it support your wellness. Let it create space for the moments that matter. Let it fund your dreams, not distract you from them. Let it open doors, but never forget, you're the one who walks through them. In the end, money is not the final goal. Life is. Love is. Freedom is. Purpose is. And when you use money as a tool to support those things, it becomes one of your greatest allies, not your master. So earn with intention, spend with wisdom, save with vision, and give with heart. Because in doing so, you'll discover that money, used well, is not just a measure of value, it's a multiplier of meaning. There's a moment we all come to, a crossroads where we know what we want, what we need to do, the change we're meant to make. But instead of moving, we hesitate, we wait. We tell ourselves we need more time, more clarity, more confidence. We say we'll start next week, next month, next year. When things settle down, when we feel more ready, when life is less complicated. But the truth is, there is no perfect time. There never has been, and there never will be. Waiting for the perfect moment is a myth. It's a comfort zone dressed as logic. And the longer you wait, the heavier the dream becomes. The perfect time isn't coming. Life doesn't pause for clarity. It doesn't stop spinning so you can find your footing. It moves. It evolves. And the window of opportunity opens not when things are ideal, but when you decide to act anyway. If you're waiting for the fear to disappear before you begin, you'll be waiting forever. If you're waiting for all the answers before you take the first step, you'll never move. The path becomes clear by walking it, not by standing still. Starting now doesn't mean starting perfectly. It doesn't mean you have to have everything figured out. It means giving yourself permission to begin, exactly as you are, with whatever you have. It means taking messy, uncertain action and trusting that you'll figure it out along the way. Because that's how progress happens, not by planning the perfect launch, but by doing the imperfect thing and learning as you go. Every expert was once a beginner. Every master fumbled through their first steps. No one starts strong. They start scared, unsure, and clumsy, but they start. Action breeds clarity. That's the part we often forget. We think clarity comes before movement, but it's actually a result of it. When you start, you begin to learn. You gather experience. You discover what works and what doesn't. You pivot. You grow. And slowly, the fog lifts. But that kind of insight only comes from doing, from trying, from stepping into the unknown with an open mind and a willing heart. Taking action now also builds momentum. Even small steps begin to compound. One decision leads to another. One completed task creates motivation for the next, and before you know it, you're no longer stuck, you're moving. The energy of progress begins to carry you forward. That's why messy action is better than no action, because movement creates opportunities that waiting never will. You meet new people. You uncover new ideas. You build confidence. Not because you were always certain, but because you prove to yourself that you can handle the uncertain. Perfection is the enemy of progress. It convinces you that if it's not flawless, it's not worth doing. But that mindset leads to paralysis. It turns dreams into burdens, and it creates a life where nothing ever starts, because nothing ever feels good enough. The truth is, progress is always imperfect. Growth is always awkward. The beginning is supposed to be messy. That's how you learn. That's how you build the skill, the resilience, the courage to keep going. Your starting now also teaches you something powerful about yourself. You are capable of more than you think. Most people don't realize how strong they are until they're in motion, until they've taken that first brave step and realized the world didn't fall apart, that they didn't crumble, that they handled the discomfort and came out wiser. There's a strength in action that you cannot access from the sidelines, and every time you choose to begin, you build that strength. There will always be reasons to wait. Life is full of distractions, doubts, and detours. But if you're honest with yourself, you'll realize that many of those reasons are rooted in fear, not facts. Fear of failing, fear of looking foolish, fear of getting it wrong. But here's the truth. Getting it wrong is part of getting it right. No one avoids failure completely, but the people who succeed are the ones who are willing to fail, to stumble, to get back up and try again. They know that progress is messy and they show up anyway. You don't need to know the whole path. You just need to take the next step. Maybe that's making the call, sending the email, writing the first page, signing up for the class, whatever it is. Do it now, not because it will be perfect, but because it will be progress. And progress is what turns dreams into reality, one imperfect action at a time. The beauty of starting now is that it frees you. It lifts the weight of someday off your shoulders. It puts you back in the driver's seat. It reminds you that you're not waiting on permission. You don't need anyone's approval to begin. You don't need ideal conditions. You just need the courage to act and the willingness to grow from what you learn. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. Change always is, but that discomfort is temporary. Regret, on the other hand, lasts much longer. You will never regret trying. You will never regret taking a chance on yourself. But you will regret letting fear win. You will regret staying in the same place out of comfort. You will regret not starting when you had the chance. So don't wait. Begin now. Begin small. Begin scared. But begin. You have everything you need to take the first step. The rest you will gather on the way. That's how life works. That's how growth unfolds. Not in perfect lines, but in brave, messy movement. You don't need to be ready. You just need to be willing. Willing to take action. Willing to learn. Willing to trust that every step forward, no matter how uncertain, is bringing you closer to the life you want. So stop waiting. The perfect time is a myth. The perfect version of you is a myth. All you have is this moment, and this moment is enough. Start now. Learn as you go. Grow through the mess, and give yourself permission to build something beautiful. One brave step at a time. In today's world, comparison is everywhere. It hides in the scroll of your phone, in the highlight reels of strangers, in the subtle envy that creeps in when someone else appears to be winning, and without even realizing it, you begin to question your own life. You start measuring your progress, your success, your happiness against someone else's journey. But the truth is simple and freeing. Comparison steals joy. It robs you of the beauty of your own life. It blurs your vision, distorts your path, and tricks you into believing you're behind when, in reality, you're exactly where you need to be. We live in a world of curated lives. Social media gives us glimpses at carefully chosen moments, polished and filtered, and yet we compare those snapshots to our raw, unedited days. We see someone's success but not their struggle. We see their confidence but not their self-doubt. We see their results but not the years of effort behind them. And in that one-sided view, we feel less accomplished, less fulfilled, less worthy. But what we're comparing is not fair, and it's not real. It's an illusion, and it's costing us our peace. Your journey is yours, unique, sacred, unfolding at its own pace. No one else has lived your life. No one else carries your combination of strengths, challenges, dreams, or timing. And that means your path will never look like someone else's. Nor should it. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're not missing out. You're simply living a different story, and that story deserves your full attention, not your divided focus on someone else's chapter. Comparison often creeps in silently. It disguises itself as motivation or curiosity or even harmless observation, but over time it begins to chip away at your self-esteem. You start to question your worth based on what someone else is doing or achieving. You begin to feel like your progress isn't enough, that your efforts don't count, that your wins are small in the shadow of someone else's success. But here's the truth. Your value was never meant to be measured against someone else. Your worth is not tied to where you are compared to anyone else. It's tied to who you are becoming. When you focus on your own journey, everything changes. You begin to see your growth more clearly. You start to celebrate the small wins that once went unnoticed. You shift from competition to contentment, from comparison to connection. You start asking better questions, not why am I not there yet, but what am I learning right now? Not why is their life better, but what can I be grateful for in mine? These questions don't just bring peace, they bring power. They return your focus to where it belongs, on your own path. Timing is different for everyone. Some people find their purpose at 20, others at 50. Some build a life quickly, others slowly. Some bloom early, others late. But all are valid. All are valuable. You are not running a race. There is no finish line you must reach at the same time as someone else. Life is not a competition. It's a personal evolution. And the only person you need to be better than is the person you were yesterday. That's where true fulfillment lives. In growth, in effort, in authenticity. When you let go of comparison, you make room for inspiration. You begin to admire others without feeling inferior. You learn from their stories without losing touch with your own. You cheer for their success without questioning your own timeline. That's the beauty of perspective. You can see others rise and still believe in your own rise. You can celebrate their chapter and still trust that yours is coming. Because success is not a limited resource. There's enough light for everyone to shine. There's enough space for every path to unfold. It's also worth remembering that no one has it all figured out. Everyone is navigating something behind the scenes. Everyone is dealing with doubts, setbacks, insecurities. What you see on the surface is never the full picture. And sometimes, the people you compare yourself to are comparing themselves to someone else. It's a loop that never ends, until you choose to step out of it. Until you decide that your peace is worth protecting, that your joy is worth keeping, that your life is worth celebrating, even when it looks different from the one next to it. Gratitude is one of the greatest antidotes to comparison. When you begin to truly appreciate what you have, who you are, and how far you've come, the grip of comparison begins to loosen. You start to see your life through a lens of abundance, not lack. You notice the beauty in your own journey. You remember the battles you've overcome, the lessons you've learned, the growth you've earned. And you realize that your story, just as it is, holds value. Not someday, not when you've reached the next goal, but right now. Focusing on your own path also deepens your presence. You stop rushing. You stop measuring every moment. You slow down enough to enjoy the process, to find meaning in the small things, to live instead of constantly comparing. And in that stillness, you reconnect with yourself, with your truth, your values, your purpose. That's where clarity comes from. That's where joy lives, not in someone else's life, but in your own. So if you find yourself caught in comparison, gently bring yourself back. Remind yourself that your journey is not a performance. It's a path, one that doesn't need to look like anyone else's to be meaningful, one that is unfolding in its own perfect timing. You are not behind, you are not off track, you are becoming, and that becoming is sacred. Let others inspire you, not intimidate you. Let their success light a spark in you, not cast a shadow over you. Celebrate their wins and then return to your work, your purpose, your life. Because comparison may be loud, but your truth is louder if you choose to listen. And your joy? It's waiting, not in someone else's story, but in the one you're writing every single day. Time. It's the one thing we all have in equal measure, yet experience so differently. It moves forward, relentlessly without pause or reset. It cannot be stored, borrowed, or retrieved. Once a moment passes, it's gone forever. Irreversible, irrecoverable. And yet we often treat time as though it's limitless. We waste it, postpone it, sell it cheap. We chase after money, attention, and success, forgetting that the true currency of life isn't in dollars or possessions. It's in minutes, hours, and days. Time is your most valuable currency, and how you spend it is a reflection of what truly matters to you. Productivity has become the gold standard of modern life. We measure our worth in checklists, our value in how much we accomplish before sunset. But in our obsession with doing more, we've forgotten how to be present, how to be intentional, how to be aligned with what matters. Productivity, while useful, is not the goal. It's simply a tool, a means, not an end, because a life filled with accomplishments but empty of meaning is not success. It's exhaustion. It's running fast in the wrong direction. Time well spent isn't about cramming your days full. It's about filling them with what matters. Intentional living starts with awareness. It means asking the hard but necessary questions. What am I giving my time to? Is it aligned with the life I want to create? Am I investing in what truly fulfills me, or just reacting to the noise around me? We often give away our time by default, scrolling endlessly, saying yes to things we don't care about, staying busy instead of being purposeful. But when you begin to treat time like the rare and precious gift that it is, everything changes. You become more protective, more selective, more awake to the choices you're making. The truth is, time is more valuable than money. You can always make more money, but you cannot make more time. Every second you spend is a second you never get back. And that's not meant to create pressure or fear, but clarity. Clarity that helps you live more deeply, not just more efficiently. That clarity reminds you to slow down, to pay attention, to be present with the people you love. Because one day, the most valuable things in your life will be the moments you can't recreate. The laughter over dinner, the quiet walks, the conversations that made you feel seen, the mornings that felt like peace. Time is also your greatest teacher. It reveals the truth about your habits, your choices, your priorities. Where your time goes, your life follows. You may say you value family, health, or creativity, but if your time is always pulled elsewhere, the results will show. Your time will never lie to you. It's the mirror that reflects what you're actually building. And if you don't like what you see, you have the power to change it. Because while you can't rewind time, you can redirect it, starting now. Living with intention doesn't mean scheduling every second. It means living with awareness, being mindful of how you spend your hours and who you spend them with. It means understanding that saying yes to one thing is always saying no to something else. And often, we're saying no to the things that matter most because we haven't stopped to ask what truly matters. You don't need to be busy to be valuable. You need to be aligned. You need to know what matters and then guard it with your time. We often delay the life we want to live, thinking we'll have more time later. I'll rest when things slow down. I'll pursue my passion after this project. I'll spend more time with loved ones once I reach my goals. But later is not promised. Later is a story we tell ourselves to avoid making hard choices now. And while it's true that some seasons require sacrifice, the key is not to postpone your life until it's too late. Because time doesn't wait for convenience. It passes whether you're ready or not, whether you're present or distracted, whether you're engaged or just going through the motions. So take the trip, make the call, start the project, say what needs to be said. Don't wait for a better time. The best time is now, not because it's perfect, but because it's here. And here is all we ever really have. Time teaches us to be humble. It reminds us that we are not in control of everything, that we will all run out of time eventually, but that knowledge isn't meant to make us anxious. It's meant to make us intentional. It's meant to bring urgency to our dreams, compassion to our relationships, and awareness to our days. Spend time on things that add value to your soul. Give your hours to what brings you peace, purpose, and connection. Invest your minutes in experiences that nourish you, conversations that matter, and actions that align with the kind of life you want to build. Let go of the pressure to constantly achieve and lean into the art of simply being present. Sometimes, the most powerful way to spend your time is in rest, reflection, or stillness, because in those quiet moments, we often find our deepest clarity. Protect your time like you would your most prized possession, because it is. Don't give it away cheaply. Don't spend it trying to prove yourself to people who don't matter. Don't trade it for validation or empty distractions. trade it for growth, for joy, for love, for healing, for laughter, for meaning. And remember, spending time intentionally doesn't always look impressive. It might look like reading a book, playing with your child, walking alone, writing in a journal, or sitting in silence. But those are often the moments that shape your soul more than any to-do list ever could. Time is your most valuable currency, and every day you are spending it, whether you're aware of it or not. So spend it well. Spend it slowly, spend it purposefully. Live like your time is sacred, because it is. In the end, it won't be your achievements that matter most. It will be your presence, your moments, your memories, your time well lived. Saying no is one of the simplest things we can do and one of the hardest. It's a short word, just 2 letters, yet it carries the weight of so many emotions: guilt, fear, obligation. We struggle with it not because we don't know what we want, but because we're afraid of what others will think if we honor it. We don't want to disappoint. We don't want to seem selfish or unkind. But here's the truth. Learning to say no is one of the most powerful forms of self-respect. It's not about shutting others out. It's about choosing to protect what's sacred: your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. Boundaries are not barriers. They're not walls meant to isolate or control. They're bridges that help us define where we begin and where we end. They allow us to show up in the world with clarity and intention. They're the quiet signals that say, this is what I can give, and this is what I need to protect. Without boundaries, we live in a constant state of reaction. We say yes too often, stretch ourselves too thin, and slowly erode the very parts of us that need space to breathe. Over time, that leads to burnout, resentment, and a loss of connection, not just with others, but with ourselves. The ability to say no without guilt begins with understanding that your worth is not tied to your availability. You don't owe anyone your time simply because they ask for it. Your value is not measured by how much you sacrifice for others. It's measured by how fully you're able to show up for what truly matters. Your health, your purpose, your relationships, your inner peace. And you can't do that if your life is filled with yeses you never meant to give. Every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Maybe it's your rest. Maybe it's your priorities. Maybe it's the quiet space you need to reflect, recharge, or simply breathe. Saying yes when you want to say no is a form of self-abandonment. It might bring temporary approval from others, but it often comes at the cost of long-term alignment with yourself. And that cost, though invisible at first, accumulates over time. It shows up as stress, as fatigue, as the quiet frustration that builds when you realize your schedule no longer reflects your values. It's important to remember that a boundary is not a rejection. It's a form of honesty. It says, I care about you enough to be real with you, and I care about myself enough to be real with me. It might disappoint someone in the moment, but in the long run, it creates healthier, more respectful relationships. When you communicate your limits clearly, you stop pretending, you stop overextending. You create space for others to take responsibility for their own needs, and for you to take responsibility for yours. One of the most empowering realizations you can have is this: you can say no with kindness. You can say it gently, without apology, without defensiveness, without shame. You don't need to justify every decision or over-explain your reasons. A simple, respectful no is enough. I appreciate the offer, but I have to pass. Thank you for thinking of me, but I can't commit to that right now. That doesn't align with my priorities at the moment. These are not acts of rejection. They are acts of intention. And they teach others how to treat your time and your energy with the same care and respect you're beginning to show yourself. It's also worth noting that not everyone will understand your boundaries. Some will take it personally. Some will push back. That's okay. Your job is not to manage their reactions. Your job is to honor your truth. People who truly respect you will adapt. They may not love your no, but they will learn to live with it, and those who can't respect your boundaries may not be meant to stay as close as they once were. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. As you grow, your capacity will change, so will your standards. What you once tolerated, you may no longer accept. What you once had time for, you may now need to release. This is not selfish, it's a natural part of personal evolution. As your priorities sharpen, your boundaries must follow. And the more you practice saying no, the easier it becomes. The guilt fades, the clarity grows, and you begin to build a life that reflects your truth, not your fear of disappointing others. Learning to say no is also about trust. Trusting that the right people, the right opportunities, the right timing will honor your limits. That you don't need to say yes to everything in order to stay loved, relevant, or successful. In fact, saying no often opens the door to deeper alignment. It creates space for what's meant to come through. When your calendar is not crowded with obligations, your heart has more room to listen. Your mind has more clarity to create. Your body has more energy to thrive. Boundaries are how we protect what matters most. Your creativity, your relationships, your joy, your peace. And these things are not luxuries. They're your lifeblood. Without them, success feels hollow, life feels rushed, and even the most noble intentions begin to feel like burdens. That's why saying no is not just a skill, it's a necessity. It's how you reclaim your time, recenter your focus, and return to yourself. So the next time you feel that inner nudge, that hesitation when someone asks something of you, pause, breathe, ask yourself, is this a full yes or is this a fear-based yes? Trust your body, trust your intuition. And if the answer is no, give yourself permission to honor it. Say it with love, say it with grace. Say it like someone who understands that their energy is sacred and who's no longer willing to spend it on things that drain their spirit. Because in the end, your time and your energy are your most precious resources. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give endlessly without giving to yourself. So learn to say no without guilt, without shame, without fear. Let your boundaries speak for you when words are hard to find. Let them protect your peace, your purpose, your heart. You don't need to be everything to everyone. You just need to be true to yourself. And sometimes that starts with a simple, loving no. Your mind is a powerful storyteller. It weaves narratives all day long, layering experiences with meaning, attaching emotion to memory, creating ideas about who you are, what you're capable of, and how the world works. But here's something we're rarely taught. Just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean it's true. Your thoughts are not always facts. They are often interpretations, habitual patterns shaped by your past, your fears, your upbringing, your environment. And if you're not careful, you might live your entire life being led by beliefs that were never accurate to begin with. Negative self-talk is one of the most common and destructive forms of distorted thinking. It's the quiet voice in your head that says you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy, not ready. It criticizes, it doubts, it catastrophizes, and because it speaks in your own voice, you believe it. You take its words as truth. You let it shape your decisions, your confidence, your self-esteem. But if you pause, if you really examine these thoughts, you'll often find they're not grounded in reality. They're just echoes of old wounds, fear-based assumptions, or inner narratives you've never challenged. The first step toward freedom is awareness. Start noticing your thoughts. Don't judge them. Don't try to suppress them. Just observe. What's running on repeat in the background of your mind? What stories are you telling yourself about your worth, your future, your capabilities? Often these stories go unnoticed because they've become familiar. They sound like facts, but they're really just habits. Mental loops you've rehearsed so many times that they feel automatic. Once you become aware of your negative self-talk, the next step is to question it. Ask, is this thought true? Is it always true? What evidence do I have for it? What would I say to a friend who believed this about themselves? Most of the time, you'll find that your thoughts are exaggerated, biased, or incomplete. The mind loves to fill in gaps with fear. It jumps to conclusions. It generalizes. It assumes the worst. But when you slow down and shine the light of curiosity on these thoughts, their power begins to fade. Challenging your thoughts doesn't mean denying your emotions. It means separating feeling from fact. You can feel afraid and still be capable. You can feel unworthy and still be valuable. You can feel uncertain and still move forward. Emotions are valid, but they're not always accurate indicators of truth. Learning to hold space for your feelings without letting them dictate your direction is a skill, one that gets stronger the more you practice it. It's also important to understand that the brain is wired for survival, not necessarily for happiness. That means it tends to focus on what's wrong, what could go wrong, and how to avoid danger. This negativity bias was helpful when survival meant outrunning predators, but in modern life it often shows up as self-doubt, overthinking, and chronic anxiety. Your brain is trying to protect you, but in doing so it sometimes holds you back from growth, connection, and joy. Recognizing this helps you create distance between you and your thoughts. You can thank your mind for trying to keep you safe, then gently remind it that not every fear needs to be followed. Another helpful practice is reframing. Instead of accepting a negative thought as truth, try to shift its perspective. "I'm terrible at this" becomes "I'm learning, and every expert was once a beginner." "I always mess things up" becomes "I've made mistakes, but I'm growing from them." "I'll never get through this" becomes "This is hard, but I've handled hard things before." Reframing doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means choosing a more empowering and balanced interpretation of your experience. You can also develop affirmations that directly counter your most common negative thoughts. These don't have to be lofty or unrealistic. They just need to be true, believable, and kind. Statements like, "I am doing my best," "I am enough as I am," "I am allowed to take up space," or "My worth is not defined by my productivity." Repeating these daily helps rewire your brain to focus on strength, compassion, and possibility instead of fear and limitation. Over time, as you become more skilled at recognizing and challenging your negative thoughts, you begin to build a healthier inner dialogue. You become your own ally instead of your harshest critic. Your inner voice shifts from punishment to encouragement, and that change ripples outward. It affects how you show up in your relationships, your work, your goals. You stop playing small. You stop shrinking. You begin to move through life with more self-trust, more resilience, and more peace. It's important to remember that everyone has negative thoughts. You are not broken or weak for having them. The difference lies in how you respond. Some people believe every fear their mind throws at them and stay stuck. Others learn to pause, observe, and choose a different narrative. That choice, though small, is life-changing, because the quality of your thoughts shapes the quality of your life. And the more intentional you become with your mind, the more empowered you become in your actions. Mental freedom doesn't come from controlling every thought. It comes from knowing that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them, the quiet presence that observes them. And from that space you get to choose which thoughts to believe, which ones to challenge, and which ones to let go. That's where your power lives, in the pause between thought and reaction, in the ability to respond rather than react, in the wisdom to know that just because a thought appears doesn't mean it deserves your belief. So the next time your mind tells you that you're not enough, not ready, or not capable, pause, breathe, challenge that thought. Ask yourself, who told me this? Where did it come from? And do I want to keep carrying it? Then replace it with something more truthful, more empowering, more kind. Your mind may protest at first, but with time, with practice, it will begin to shift. It will begin to follow your lead, and you'll start living not from fear, but from clarity, not from shame, but from self-worth. Because at the end of the day, your thoughts are just visitors, they come and go. But you are the one who decides which ones stay. Perfection sounds noble. It wears the mask of high standards, ambition, and excellence. It convinces us that if we just work hard enough, think long enough, prepare carefully enough, we'll finally get everything just right. But beneath that shiny surface, perfection often hides something else. Fear. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of not being good enough. And while it may look like discipline or commitment, perfectionism is often the very thing that keeps us from ever starting, from ever finishing, from ever fully showing up. Because the truth is, perfection isn't the path to success, it's a roadblock. And progress, not perfection, is what moves you forward. When we aim for perfection, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Because nothing is ever truly perfect. No project, no performance, no plan. Life is too fluid, too unpredictable for perfect outcomes. There will always be variables, missteps, revisions, and growth along the way. Yet many people get stuck waiting for the perfect time, the perfect conditions, the perfect idea. But perfection rarely arrives. And while you're waiting for the ideal moment, life moves on. Opportunities pass, ideas fade, energy drains, and the dream that once felt alive starts to feel unreachable. Not because you weren't capable, but because you were waiting for flawless instead of choosing forward. Progress is messy. It involves mistakes, redirections, and imperfect steps. It requires humility and patience. It means showing up even when things feel unclear. But progress is how things get built. It's how books get written, businesses get launched, goals get reached, and habits get formed. Not through perfect days, but through consistent, intentional ones. Little by little, moment by moment, one choice at a time. When you shift your focus from perfection to progress, something powerful happens. You free yourself from the pressure to be flawless. You start to see value in effort, not just outcomes. You begin to measure growth not in results alone, but in courage, in showing up, in learning, in continuing despite setbacks. And suddenly, the journey feels lighter. Your goals feel more reachable. Because you're no longer trying to be perfect, you're just trying to be better than you were yesterday. The irony of perfectionism is that it often leads to inaction. The fear of not doing something right becomes a reason not to do it at all. You procrastinate, you overthink, you become paralyzed by possibilities, and the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to begin. But when you give yourself permission to be imperfect, you unlock momentum. You start small, you adjust as you go, and in that forward motion, clarity comes, confidence grows, and progress builds. Progress also builds resilience, because it teaches you how to recover, how to pivot, how to persist. Perfection, on the other hand, is fragile. It can't handle mistakes. It crumbles under pressure. But progress is flexible. It adapts. It finds new paths. It keeps going. And that persistence, that willingness to move forward without a guarantee of success, that's what leads to mastery. Not the illusion of doing everything right, but the reality of doing what matters, even when it's hard. It's important to remember that done is often better than perfect. A completed project, even if it has flaws, creates value. A rough draft can be revised. A first attempt can be improved. But an idea left in your mind, untouched because it's not ready, creates nothing. Perfectionism keeps your gifts hidden. Progress brings them to life. It puts your voice into the world. It brings your efforts into the light, and it reminds you that you don't have to be perfect to make a difference. You just have to be brave enough to begin. There is beauty in imperfection. There is honesty in vulnerability. There is power in showing up as you are, doing your best, and learning as you go. People don't connect with perfection. They connect with real, with effort, with growth. They are inspired not by someone who never fails, but by someone who keeps going despite failure. So let go of the need to impress. Let go of the need to have it all figured out. Replace it with the willingness to try, to learn, to improve. If you look at any successful person, you'll find a long trail of imperfect progress behind them. Not one of them started perfectly. They failed, they stumbled, they doubted themselves. But they kept moving. And because they kept moving, they kept growing. That's the difference. Not talent, not luck, but commitment to progress, no matter how messy or slow it may be. You don't need to change everything at once. You just need to take the next step, make the next decision, do the next right thing. Let go of the idea that every move has to be brilliant. It doesn't. It just has to be honest, authentic, aligned with where you're trying to go. Trust that progress, no matter how small, is still movement. Trust that it's enough to keep going. Because the truth is, no progress is ever wasted. Every step teaches you something, every effort builds momentum, and over time those small, imperfect efforts lead to something beautiful. Progress over perfection also creates space for compassion, for yourself and for others. When you stop demanding perfection, you start offering grace. You recognize that growth is not a straight line, that healing is not always fast, that improvement takes time, and in that understanding, you become more patient, more accepting, more grounded in what's real. So, start messy. Speak even if your voice shakes. Try even if you're unsure. Share your work even if it's not polished. Show up even when it's hard. And remember that every time you do, you're moving forward. You're building something. You're becoming someone stronger, wiser, more free. Because in the end, perfection is not the goal. Progress is, growth is, movement is, life is. Let your steps be imperfect. Let your journey be real, and keep going. Always keep going. Gratitude is quiet. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't shout for recognition. But when you begin to practice it, consistently, intentionally, even on the hardest days, it changes everything. Not the circumstances themselves, but the way you see them, the way you feel them, the way you respond. Gratitude shifts your perspective. It doesn't pretend that life is perfect, but it helps you notice the good that's already here, often hidden in plain sight. And over time, this noticing rewires your brain. It shapes your thoughts, your emotions, your overall sense of well-being. It creates space in your mind where peace and appreciation can grow, even in the midst of challenge. We often chase happiness like it's somewhere out there, something we'll arrive at once we have more, once things are better, once we're finally enough. But gratitude brings us back to this moment, to what already is, to what we already have. It whispers, "Look again." And when you do, you realize that joy isn't always in the big milestones. It's in the sunlight through the window, the laughter of someone you love. Satira Sorrow, a chapter, the quiet moments, when nothing is missing. Gratitude doesn't make everything easy, but it does make everything lighter. The beauty of gratitude is that it doesn't require anything to change. It's not dependent on achievement, perfection, or external success. It's available to you right now, as you are, wherever you are, and when practiced regularly, it starts to shift your default lens. Instead of scanning the world for what's lacking, your mind begins to look for what's good, what's working, what's beautiful. This is not wishful thinking, it's neuroscience. Studies have shown that gratitude literally changes the wiring of the brain. It activates areas associated with dopamine, optimism, and emotional regulation. The more you practice it, the more your brain begins to seek out positivity on its own. But gratitude is not always easy, especially in times of stress, pain, or uncertainty. That's when it feels hardest and most important. Gratitude in the midst of difficulty is not denial. It's not saying everything's fine when it's not. It's saying, even in the middle of this, there is still something good. It's finding the light, however small, and choosing to focus on it. That doesn't make the hard things disappear, but it helps you carry them with more strength, more grace, more perspective. Gratitude also softens your relationship with yourself. When you start to appreciate not just what you have, but who you are, you create space for compassion. You begin to notice your efforts. You start celebrating progress instead of punishing imperfection. You stop rushing toward some future version of yourself and start honoring the present one. Gratitude says, "You're doing better than you think." It reminds you that your journey matters, that not just the destination, but every small, quiet step along the way. It also deepens your relationships. When you take the time to notice and express appreciation for someone's presence, their support, their small acts of kindness, it builds connection. It fosters trust. It turns ordinary moments into sacred ones. Gratitude is one of the most powerful ways to nurture love, not just romantic love, but friendship, family, community, and the more you give it, the more it grows, not just in others, but in you. Practicing gratitude doesn't require grand gestures. It can be as simple as taking a few moments each morning to reflect on what you're thankful for, writing down 3 things you appreciate at the end of the day, saying thank you with intention, noticing the good and naming it, out loud on paper or silently to yourself. These simple acts, repeated over time, create a new rhythm in your life, a rhythm that leans toward lightness, toward hope, toward presence. It's important to note that gratitude is not about ignoring reality. It's about embracing it with open eyes, seeing all of it, the joy and the pain, the ease and the struggle, and choosing to hold both. It's not either or, it's both and. Gratitude says, yes, this is hard, and I'm grateful for the strength to face it. Yes, I'm still growing, and I'm thankful for how far I've come. Yes, I wish things were different, and I'm grateful for what I've learned through it. This perspective doesn't minimize your experience. It expands it. It allows you to see more, feel more, and ultimately live more fully. Over time, a grateful heart becomes a grounded one. You stop chasing so much. You stop comparing so much. You begin to realize that enough isn't a place you arrive at someday. It's something you choose again and again right here. And from that place of enough, you start to build a different kind of life. Not one fueled by lack, but one rooted in appreciation. Not one driven by fear, but one sustained by presence. Gratitude also helps you slow down. In a world that glorifies hustle and constant striving, it invites you to pause, to breathe, to notice. It teaches you to find beauty in what's already yours, not just in what you're trying to achieve. That doesn't mean you stop growing or dreaming. It means your growth is anchored in joy, not in a sense of not enough. It means you can pursue your goals with peace instead of pressure. Even in moments of loss, gratitude has a role to play. Not to erase the pain, but to honor what was, to remember the good, to carry forward what still matters. Gratitude becomes a thread of light through the grief, that a reminder that love was real, that joy was felt, that even in goodbye, something beautiful remains. In this way, gratitude becomes a form of healing, a quiet strength that helps you keep moving even when the road feels uncertain. So let gratitude become your practice. Let it be part of your daily rhythm. Let it guide your thoughts, your words, your choices. You don't need to feel grateful for everything, but you can always find something to be grateful for. And that shift, however small, can change the way you experience your life. In the end, gratitude doesn't just change your mind, it changes your heart. It softens you, grounds you, centers you in the present. It reminds you that life, even with all its imperfections, is still full of gifts. And when you start to notice them, when you truly appreciate them, life begins to feel less like something you have to manage and more like something you get to experience. So pause, look around, look within. There is something here worth noticing, something worth appreciating, something that reminds you, even in this moment, you are not empty, you are full. And that fullness, when acknowledged, becomes a light that carries you forward. Curiosity is the spark that keeps the mind alive. It's the quiet urge that leans in when something new crosses your path. It's the gentle whisper that says, "What if? Why? How?" It is the essence of youth, not the number of years you've lived, but the openness with which you meet the world. A curious person is never truly old, because they're always expanding, always evolving. Their mind stays flexible. Their heart stays soft. Their life, no matter the age, remains filled with discovery, because when you're curious, the world never gets dull. It becomes a place of endless wonder. Somewhere along the way, many of us were taught that learning is something confined to school or formal education, that it has an endpoint, that once you reach adulthood or a certain level of expertise, the process stops. But the truth is, the moment you stop being curious is the moment your inner world begins to shrink. You begin to live in routines, in assumptions, in certainty. And while there's comfort in familiarity, there's also stagnation. The most vibrant people, the ones who stay energized, creative, open, are those who never stop asking questions. They keep learning, they keep exploring, they stay willing to not know. Curiosity is about more than collecting information. It's about staying engaged with life. It's about meeting each day with the awareness that you haven't seen it all, known it all, or felt it all. That there's always more to uncover, not just in the world, but within yourself. New thoughts, new skills, new perspectives. When you stay curious, you stop assuming, you stop labeling, you start listening more deeply to people, to experiences, even to your own reactions. And that listening opens doors. It allows you to grow in ways you never planned. Curiosity also softens your judgments. It's hard to be curious and critical at the same time. When you replace judgment with wonder, defensiveness with inquiry, everything shifts. Instead of thinking, "That's wrong," you begin to wonder, "Why do they think that way?" Instead of assuming, "This is how it's always been," you start to ask, "Could it be different?" That openness builds bridges. It expands your world instead of shrinking it. And in a time where division and certainty often dominate, curiosity becomes a quiet rebellion, an act of connection. Learning doesn't have to be formal. You don't need to sit in a classroom or pursue a degree to keep your mind young. You just need to stay engaged, read something new, try a hobby that stretches you, talk to someone with a different background, watch a documentary on a topic you know nothing about, explore an idea without needing to master it. The goal isn't to become an expert, it's to stay awake. Awake to growth, awake to nuance, awake to the beautiful complexity of life. Curiosity is also a powerful antidote to fear. So often, fear keeps us stuck. It tells us to stay where it's safe, where it's known, where we won't make mistakes. But curiosity invites us forward. It says, "Try anyway, see what happens." It transforms fear from something paralyzing into something manageable, something you can move with instead of hide from, because the moment you get curious about fear, it loses its grip. It becomes something to explore rather than something to obey. In relationships, curiosity is the glue that keeps connection alive. It reminds you that people are not static, that even those you've known for years still have layers, thoughts, and dreams you haven't heard yet. Curiosity keeps you present. It says, "Tell me more. What's been on your mind? How did that make you feel?" It creates space for others to be seen, and in that seeing, relationships deepen. Trust grows. Walls come down. Curiosity keeps love alive, not just romantic love, but the kind of love that forms through attention, care, and presence. With yourself, curiosity is equally essential. It helps you navigate change. It helps you understand your emotions. It asks, "Why did I react that way? What am I really needing right now? Where did that belief come from?" Instead of beating yourself up or shutting down, you begin to explore. You become a student of your own experience. And that kind of self-awareness leads to healing because you're no longer trapped by unconscious patterns. You're investigating them, gently, compassionately, with the intent to grow. Curiosity also fuels creativity. Every new idea, every innovation, every piece of art or music or writing begins with a question, a sense of wonder, a desire to express or discover. If you want to stay creative, stay curious. Don't worry about being original, worry about being open. Creativity doesn't come from certainty, it comes from exploration, from the willingness to wander, to try, to fail, to see what emerges when you mix old things in new ways. There will be seasons in life that feel dry, where everything feels familiar and nothing seems exciting. That's okay. Those seasons are invitations, not to escape, but to look deeper, to get curious about your own boredom, your own restlessness. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come not from seeking new landscapes, but from seeking the old ones with new eyes, from asking, what am I missing? What haven't I noticed? What could I do differently today? Even the most ordinary life can become extraordinary when viewed through the lens of wonder. And remember, curiosity is not about having all the answers. It's about being willing to keep asking, to keep learning, to stay humble enough to admit you don't know it all, and brave enough to keep exploring anyway. That mindset doesn't just keep you mentally sharp, it keeps you emotionally vibrant, spiritually engaged, fully alive. So be curious, ask more questions, read more books, sit with people who challenge your thinking, take the class, watch the documentary, wander down the rabbit hole, let life surprise you. Let yourself be amazed. The world is not done showing you beauty. Your mind is not done expanding. Your heart is not done growing. Stay open, stay learning. Stay young. Not in body, but in spirit. Because curiosity is not just a trait, it's a way of life, a quiet commitment to never stop discovering. And in that discovery, we find not just knowledge, but joy, connection, and the kind of wonder that keeps us truly, deeply alive. There is a quiet kind of strength in knowing what you can control and in learning to release what you cannot. Life has a way of reminding us that so much of what happens is outside our hands. The weather, the economy, the past, the opinions of others, the timing of opportunities, even the outcomes of our best-laid plans. Try as we might, we can't force the world to bend to our will, and when we try, we often find ourselves exhausted, anxious, and overwhelmed, not because life is inherently cruel, but because we're holding tightly to things that were never ours to hold in the first place. Letting go is not giving up, it's not apathy or indifference, it's wisdom. It's the quiet realization that peace comes not from controlling everything, but from learning where to place your energy. There's freedom in that. Freedom in saying, this is mine to carry, and this is not. Freedom in choosing to focus on your attitude, your effort, your integrity, because those are the things that truly shape your experience. And when you redirect your focus inward, toward what you can influence, you reclaim your power in a world that often feels chaotic. There will always be uncertainty. Plans will fall apart. People will disappoint you. Outcomes will surprise you. That's the nature of life, fluid, unpredictable, full of twists. And while you can't stop the waves from coming, you can learn how to surf them. You can learn how to respond with grace. You can learn to be steady even when the ground feels unstable. And that steadiness begins with acceptance. Acceptance that control is not the path to peace. Surrender is. Surrender is not weakness. It's not passivity. It's the courageous act of softening your grip and trusting that you will be okay, even when things don't go according to plan. It's choosing to meet life as it is, not as you wish it would be. It's finding the balance between effort and ease, between doing your part and letting go of the outcome, and that balance is where your peace lives. When you let go of what you can't control, your mind becomes lighter, your body relaxes, your energy shifts from resistance to flow. You stop wasting time trying to micromanage every detail, and instead, you start living fully, intentionally, presently. You begin to show up with more clarity because you're not distracted by what's out of reach. You begin to act with more purpose because your focus is no longer scattered across things you can't change. You become more grounded, more patient, more in tune with your own power. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What can I do with this?" That one shift turns you from a victim of circumstance into an agent of change. It reminds you that while you may not choose what happens, you always choose your response. You choose your mindset, your words, your tone, your attitude. These small, often overlooked choices are what create strength. They are what shape your life far more than any external factor ever could. So many people spend their lives trying to control everything outside of them, trying to make others behave a certain way, trying to predict every outcome, trying to fix the past or secure the future. But the only thing you ever truly own is your inner world, your thoughts, your perspective, your decisions. And when you focus there, when you take responsibility for what is yours and release what is not, you begin to experience a different kind of peace. A peace that's not dependent on perfection, but rooted in presence. Letting go also means releasing expectations, not lowering your standards, but loosening your grip on how things should be. Expectations often lead to disappointment, not because life is wrong, but because we've attached ourselves to one specific version of how things are supposed to unfold. But life rarely follows a straight line. It's full of surprises, delays, detours. And sometimes, what we think is a setback is actually a redirection. Sometimes, letting go of what you wanted makes space for something even better, but you won't see it if you're clinging too tightly to the past. This practice takes time. It takes awareness. It takes unlearning the belief that control equals safety. Because safety doesn't come from control. It comes from resilience. From knowing that whatever happens, you will find your way through it. That even if the plan changes, your purpose remains. That even if the path shifts, your strength does not. Letting go is a practice you return to daily. In conversations, in conflict, in uncertainty. You catch yourself trying to control and then you breathe. You come back to yourself. You ask, "What's within my control here?" and you release the rest. Sometimes, you'll have to do this 100 times a day. That's okay. Each time is a step closer to peace. It also helps to remember that letting go doesn't mean not caring. You can care deeply and still surrender. You can be committed without being controlling. You can give your best and still release the outcome. That's the sweet spot, where effort meets trust, where you show up fully and let life unfold as it will. So focus on what you can control: your words, your habits, your presence, your energy. Focus on being kind, on staying centered, on doing the next right thing, even when the future is unclear. Focus on your breath, your patience, your ability to return to calm. These are the things that ground you. These are the things that change your life. And let go of the rest. Let go of trying to please everyone. Let go of the need for constant certainty. Let go of outcomes, opinions, and overthinking. You were never meant to carry it all. You were meant to trust. To move with intention, to do what you can, and let that be enough. Because peace doesn't come when everything is under control. It comes when you realize you don't need it to be. It comes when you return to the present, to your breath, to this moment. And in that space, you find the freedom to live fully. Not perfectly, in a world that often measures your value by how much you can produce, how many boxes you check off, how busy your schedule looks, or how quickly you can move from one task to the next, it's easy to start believing that your worth is something you earn, that you have to prove yourself. Through constant action, through achievement, through visible results. But the truth is far deeper and far more freeing. Your self-worth isn't tied to your productivity. You are valuable, even on your slow days, even when you're resting, even when you're healing, pausing, or simply being instead of doing. There is nothing wrong with being productive. It feels good to accomplish things, to move forward, to build and create and serve. But when your sense of identity becomes fused with how much you can get done in a day, you lose sight of something essential. You lose touch with the fact that your existence alone has meaning, that you have worth simply because you are here. Not because of your output, not because of your performance, but because you are a human being with thoughts, feelings, dreams, and a soul that deserves rest as much as it deserves challenge. You were not designed to go full speed all the time. You were not built to live like a machine. You are a living being, and living beings have rhythms. High energy and low energy, movement and stillness, creation and rest. There will be days when you feel motivated and focused, and days when you feel quiet and slow. Both are natural, both are necessary, and neither determines your worth. Still, many people carry the belief that their value lies in their usefulness, that if they're not contributing, they're falling behind, that if they're not constantly pushing, they're somehow less than. This mindset is not only exhausting, it's damaging. It keeps you in a cycle of burnout. It robs you of joy. It creates a pressure to perform even when your body and mind are asking you to slow down. But slowing down is not laziness. It's wisdom. It's awareness. It's the recognition that life is not a race to be won, but a journey to be lived with intention. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to have days where you don't do much. You are allowed to listen to your body, to honor your energy, to step away from the constant noise of productivity and reconnect with what it means to simply be. Your value does not decrease on the days when you are quiet. It doesn't disappear when you're not at your most efficient. In fact, it's in those quiet moments when you rest, reflect, or just breathe that you often rediscover your strength. We are not meant to measure our days by how much we accomplish. Some of the most meaningful days are not the most productive ones. They're the ones where you had a deep conversation, where you spent time with someone you love, where you let yourself feel deeply, where you simply existed in peace. Those moments are not less important because they don't appear on a to-do list. They are, in many ways, the most important. It takes courage to detach your identity from your productivity, to say, even if I didn't do much today, I am still worthy. I am still enough. It takes courage to rewrite the story in your mind that says your rest must be earned, because you don't have to earn rest. You don't have to prove your value through endless output. You are allowed to be valuable just as you are. And it's in embracing this truth that you begin to build a more sustainable life. A life where your worth is stable, where your self-respect doesn't rise and fall with your level of productivity, where you know that your contribution to this world is not limited to what you check off a list. You bring value in ways that are not always visible, through your kindness, your empathy, your presence, your ability to listen, your heart. These are not measured in spreadsheets, but they change lives all the same. On your slow days, remember this. Rest is not a waste. It's a reset. It's a way of coming back to yourself. It's how your mind recovers, your body heals, your soul refills. Rest is not the opposite of productivity, but it's part of it. Without rest, there is no creativity. Without pause, there is no clarity. Without stillness, there is no space for deeper understanding. So let yourself rest. Let yourself be. Let yourself exist without pressure. You don't have to hustle to be worthy. You don't have to push to prove anything. You are not defined by your pace. You are defined by your presence. And the most powerful thing you can do for yourself is to embrace that truth. Fully, deeply, consistently. Remind yourself on the hard days. Remind yourself on the quiet days. Remind yourself when the world tells you that your value is only in what you produce, because that's a lie. The truth is, your value is already within you. It doesn't need to be earned. It just needs to be remembered. So give yourself grace. Be gentle with yourself. Speak kindly to yourself on the days when you feel slow or tired or unsure. Celebrate the small things, a deep breath, a quiet moment, a kind word to yourself. These things matter. They're not signs of falling behind. They're signs of healing, of growing, of learning to love yourself beyond what you do. And if today is a slow day, let it be slow. If today is a day of rest, let it be enough. Your worth is not a reflection of your productivity. It never was. It never will be. You are valuable because you exist. You are worthy because you breathe. You matter. On your busiest days and on your quietest ones. And that will always be enough. In a world that never stops talking, silence can feel strange. In a culture that celebrates busyness, stillness can feel uncomfortable. And in a society that glorifies constant connection, solitude can sometimes be mistaken for loneliness. But the truth is, solitude is not something to fear or avoid. It's something to embrace. Time alone, when chosen with intention, is one of the most powerful tools for growth. It builds self-awareness, it strengthens confidence, and it brings clarity in a way that noise never can. Solitude is not about isolating yourself from the world. It's about reconnecting with yourself. It's about carving out space in your life to hear your own thoughts without distraction, to feel your emotions without interruption, and to understand who you are without the influence of outside voices. In solitude, you get to meet yourself, not the version shaped by expectation or social pressure, but the deeper self that often gets buried under the weight of daily noise. We spend so much of our time surrounded by stimulation. Scrolling, talking, working, rushing. We rarely pause long enough to ask, how am I really feeling? Or what do I actually want? Solitude gives you that pause. It allows you to check in, to listen, to recalibrate. It becomes a mirror, showing you where you're aligned and where you're not. And in that reflection, you gain insight. Insight that can't be found in constant movement. Insight that comes only in stillness. Self-awareness grows in solitude because there are no distractions to hide behind, no roles to play, no crowds to blend into, just you, raw, honest, and real. You begin to notice your patterns, your tendencies, your triggers, your hopes. And this awareness is not always easy. Sometimes it brings discomfort, but discomfort is not your enemy. It's your invitation to grow. When you learn to sit with yourself, to be present with your own thoughts and emotions without needing to escape, you build an unshakable foundation of inner strength. Confidence also takes root in solitude, not the kind of confidence that comes from applause or external validation, but the quiet kind. The kind that comes from knowing yourself deeply, from understanding your values, your strengths, your needs. When you spend time alone, you begin to trust yourself more. You become less dependent on others for your sense of direction. You start making decisions from a place of inner knowing rather than external approval. And that kind of confidence doesn't just get you through hard times, it carries you forward with clarity and purpose. Solitude gives you the gift of clarity. When the noise fades and the distractions fall away, your mind begins to settle, your heart begins to speak, and in that quiet space, you can see more clearly. You begin to recognize what truly matters, what drains you, what lights you up, what you've been chasing out of habit, and what you want to pursue out of truth. So many people feel stuck not because they lack motivation, but because they lack clarity. Solitude creates the conditions for that clarity to emerge, not instantly, but gradually, gently, honestly. Spending time alone doesn't mean you have to go on a long retreat or isolate yourself from the world. It can be as simple as a quiet walk without your phone, a few minutes of stillness in the morning, journaling your thoughts before bed, sitting in nature and just listening. It's not the amount of time that matters, it's the intention behind it. You're not escaping life. You're entering a deeper relationship with it by first entering a deeper relationship with yourself. And yes, solitude may feel uncomfortable at first. If you're used to filling every moment with noise or interaction, the quiet might feel unfamiliar, but that discomfort fades, and in its place, a kind of peace begins to bloom. A peace that isn't dependent on what's happening around you, a peace that's rooted in presence, in awareness, in self-acceptance. It's also in solitude that creativity thrives. When your mind is not being pulled in 1,000 directions, space opens for new ideas to surface, for inspiration to arrive, for your imagination to breathe. Many of the world's greatest thinkers, writers, artists, and leaders credit solitude as the source of their breakthroughs. Because when you stop consuming, you start creating. When you step away from the noise, you can hear your own voice, and it often has something powerful to say. Solitude strengthens emotional resilience. It teaches you how to regulate your thoughts and emotions, how to comfort yourself, how to find calm without needing someone else to provide it. This isn't about becoming self-sufficient to the point of isolation. It's about developing emotional maturity, about knowing that while relationships are essential, your sense of stability doesn't have to rise and fall with them. You can enjoy connection while still being rooted in your own sense of self. And perhaps most importantly, solitude teaches you to enjoy your own company, to find contentment not just in doing, but in being, to realize that you are enough, not because of what you produce or who you impress or how many people surround you, but because of who you are when everything else falls away. That realization is profoundly liberating. It frees you from the need to constantly prove yourself. It reminds you that your value isn't dependent on performance. It's inherent. It's already within you. So make time for solitude, not as an afterthought, but as a practice, a ritual, a reset. Let it be a part of your rhythm. Let it become a space where you return to yourself, and over time you'll begin to crave it, not as an escape, but as a sanctuary, a space where clarity is restored, where confidence is rebuilt, and where the deepest parts of you are heard and honored. In a loud world, choosing solitude is an act of courage. It's a decision to go inward when everything around you tells you to keep reaching outward. But within that choice lies a profound kind of power, the power to know yourself, the power to love yourself, the power to lead your life with greater purpose, clarity, and peace. So embrace solitude not with fear, but with curiosity. Let the silence speak. Let the stillness settle your spirit, and let your time alone become the doorway back to your truest self. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. Many people see it as something you give to someone else, a favor you do for the person who hurt you, a gesture of kindness toward the one who caused you pain. But true forgiveness is not about them. It's not about condoning what they did. It's not about forgetting or pretending it didn't matter. Forgiveness is about you. It's about your heart, your healing, your freedom. Because when you hold on to resentment, to bitterness, to the weight of what was done, you are the one who suffers most. You are the one carrying a burden that continues to affect your peace, your energy, your joy. Forgiveness is not a gift for the one who wronged you. It's a release for yourself. Holding on to anger can feel like power. It feels like control, like justice, like a way to protect yourself. But over time, that anger turns inward. It hardens your heart. It clouds your mind. It drains your spirit. It doesn't protect you. It poisons you. The wound may have come from someone else, but the suffering becomes yours. You carry it into your relationships, your decisions, your inner dialogue, and it quietly shapes your view of the world. That's why forgiveness matters. Not because the other person deserves it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness is not a single decision. It's a process. Sometimes it takes days, sometimes it takes years. It's not about waking up one morning and magically feeling free. It's about choosing over and over to loosen your grip on the pain, to stop feeding the thoughts that keep the story alive, to begin redirecting your energy from anger toward healing. There will be moments when the hurt resurfaces. That doesn't mean you've failed at forgiving. It means you're human. It means the wound is deep, and that's okay. Healing is not linear. What matters is that you keep choosing peace. You can forgive and still have boundaries. You can forgive and still walk away. You can forgive and still say what happened was not okay. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean pretending the relationship can continue in the same way. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to forgive and then let go. To release the pain while still honoring your worth. To wish the other person well from a distance while keeping your energy protected. When you hold on to unforgiveness, you give the past continued power over your present. You stay tethered to a moment that's no longer happening, yet continues to live inside you. Forgiveness cuts that cord. It says, I will not let this moment define me. I will not carry this pain into my future. I choose peace over punishment, and that choice is incredibly empowering. It shifts the focus from what they did to what you're becoming, from pain to purpose, from bitterness to healing. It's also important to understand that forgiveness is not weakness, it's strength. It takes far more courage to let go of a grudge than to hold on to it. Anyone can stay angry, anyone can stew in resentment, but it takes a powerful soul to say, I will not let this make me bitter. I will not let this break me. I will learn, I will rise, I will free myself. That kind of strength doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like quiet release, like breathing deeply and deciding to let the story rest. There may be people in your life who never apologize, who never take responsibility, who may not even see the damage they caused. Forgiving them doesn't make their actions right. It simply says, you're no longer waiting for an apology in order to be free. You're choosing not to let their lack of remorse keep you trapped. You're choosing to move forward, not because they asked you to, but because you've decided your peace is too precious to keep postponing. Forgiveness is also something you may need to offer yourself. We are often hardest on ourselves. We replay mistakes. We dwell on regrets. We carry guilt for things we did or didn't do, things we said or stayed silent about. But you are not your worst moment. You are not defined by your missteps. You are allowed to learn. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to forgive the version of yourself who didn't know better, who was doing the best they could with what they had at the time. Self-forgiveness is essential for healing. It opens the door for self-compassion, which is the foundation of lasting change. Letting go doesn't mean the pain wasn't real. It means you are no longer letting it rule your life. It means you're giving yourself the gift of peace, the space to breathe, the energy to move forward. It doesn't mean the story disappears. It means it no longer defines who you are. You become someone who has been hurt but is no longer hurting. Someone who remembers but is no longer resentful. Someone who honors the past but chooses to live fully in the present. Peace doesn't come from holding on, it comes from releasing. And forgiveness is the pathway to that release. It's not easy, it takes time, it takes patience, it takes courage, but it's worth it, because nothing is heavier than a heart full of resentment, and nothing is more freeing than a heart unburdened, open, and at peace. So take your time, feel the hurt, acknowledge the pain, but don't live there. You were made for more than holding on to suffering. You were made to feel light again, to laugh again, to love again. And that begins the moment you choose to forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you do. Success. It's a word we hear constantly. It's printed on magazine covers, echoed in motivational speeches, tracked in titles, paychecks, and accolades. From a young age, we're taught what it should look like. Climbing the ladder, earning more, achieving status, chasing recognition. The world hands us a blueprint and says, follow this. This is what success means. But if you pause long enough to look beneath that surface, you might discover something important. Success, real success, can't be handed to you. It can't be defined by the world. It must be defined by you. Because what's meaningful to one person may mean very little to another, and if you spend your life chasing someone else's version of success, you may reach the top only to realize it's not your mountain. There is no one-size-fits-all life, no universal checklist for what it means to be fulfilled. Success is deeply personal. It's not just about what you achieve, it's about what you value, what lights you up, what feels aligned with your spirit. For some, it may be building a business. For others, it may be raising a family, writing a book, traveling the world, or living in simplicity and peace. None of these paths are more important than the others. What matters is whether the life you're living feels true to you, not impressive to others. Too often, we chase goals without asking where they come from. We strive for more, not because we want it, but because we think we should want it. We compare our journey to someone else's timeline. We measure our self-worth by how busy we are, how visible we are, how much we've achieved. And all the while we lose touch with what we actually want, what matters to us, what feels meaningful on the inside, beyond the performance. That's where clarity comes in, clarity to step back, clarity to ask, what does a meaningful life look like for me? Not in theory, but in practice, day to day, moment to moment. Getting clear on your own definition of success requires honesty. It requires tuning out the noise and tuning in to your own inner voice. It may mean letting go of goals that once impressed you but no longer inspire you. It may mean disappointing others to stay true to yourself. It may mean slowing down, shifting directions, or starting over. But in that process, you begin to live a life that feels yours. A life you don't need to escape from, a life that reflects your values, not just your achievements. When you define success for yourself, you take your power back. You stop looking outside for validation. You stop chasing trends or following paths that feel empty. Instead, you move with intention. You create space for joy, for presence, for peace. You prioritize relationships that nourish you, work that fulfills you, habits that ground you. And slowly, you build a life that may not look extraordinary on the outside, but feels deeply fulfilling on the inside. Society will always have opinions. There will always be voices telling you to be more, do more, earn more. But you get to choose which voices you listen to. You get to decide what enough looks like, what wholeness feels like. And once you give yourself permission to step away from the pressure to perform, you begin to live more authentically, more freely, with less fear and more joy. Sometimes success looks like rest. Sometimes it looks like saying no. Sometimes it looks like walking away from something that no longer aligns. And sometimes it looks like simply being present with the life you already have. We often think success is about achieving, but it's just as much about being grounded, being well, being in love with your days, not just your goals. Because what's the point of having everything if you're too stressed or too disconnected to enjoy any of it? Defining success for yourself also helps you stay resilient. When the world shifts, when plans fall apart, when setbacks happen, you're not shaken. Because your sense of purpose doesn't live in circumstances, it lives in your core values, in the person you're becoming, in the meaning you've chosen to create. And that kind of success, anchored in purpose rather than performance, is unshakable. It's easy to fall into the trap of comparison, to look at what others have and feel like you're behind. But the truth is, you're not behind. You're on your path, with your own timing, your own pace, your own lessons to learn. Comparison is a distraction. It pulls you away from your own center. But when you know what success looks like for you, you stop competing, you stop chasing, you start living from a place of enoughness, right here, right now. A meaningful life isn't something you find, it's something you build, choice by choice, thought by thought, moment by moment. It's not always flashy, it's not always loud, but it's rich, it's rooted, and it's real. So ask yourself, what do I value most? What brings me alive? What kind of person do I want to be, regardless of what others expect? Your answers may not come all at once, but each time you ask, you peel back a layer. You get a little closer to the truth of who you are and what you're here to experience. Remember, success doesn't need to be explained to anyone else. It doesn't need to be validated, liked, or applauded. It only needs to feel aligned with you. If your version of success is a quiet, peaceful life, honor that. If it's building a legacy, impacting others, creating something meaningful, go for that. If it's finding balance, creating space for both ambition and rest, build that. There's no right answer. There's only your answer, and when you find it, hold on to it. Let it guide your choices. Let it shape your priorities. Let it remind you that your life is yours, and that's more than enough. So don't let society define your success. Don't let pressure or comparison convince you to live a life that doesn't fit your soul. Get clear on what matters. Honor what feels meaningful. And build a life that reflects you. Not perfectly, but honestly. Not for approval, but for peace. Somewhere along the way, many of us were taught that asking for help is a sign of weakness. That strength means doing everything on your own, carrying every burden silently, solving every problem without needing support. We live in a world that often celebrates independence, resilience, and self-sufficiency, but too often forgets to remind us that humans were never meant to do life alone. The truth is, asking for help is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is strength. It is the brave act of acknowledging that you are human, and that being human sometimes means needing someone else to walk with you, even if only for a moment. We all face things we were never meant to carry alone. Grief, uncertainty, fear, doubt, stress, overwhelming decisions, moments when the weight of it all feels too heavy. And in those moments, the pressure to appear strong can become a trap. It keeps us silent when we need to speak. It keeps us isolated when we need to connect. But strength is not in how much you can endure by yourself. Strength is in knowing when to reach out, when to lean on someone, when to let yourself be supported, because true resilience is not built in isolation, it's built in community. There is power in vulnerability. There is courage in admitting, I don't have all the answers. I'm not okay right now. I need help. These are not confessions of failure. They are declarations of honesty, of openness, of maturity. Asking for help means you're choosing to care for yourself instead of letting pride or fear keep you stuck. It means you're willing to be real, and being real is the foundation of any meaningful change. We often assume that others will think less of us if we show our struggles. But more often than not, people feel closer to you when you're honest. They relate to your truth. They understand your pain. Because at some point, they've felt it too. Everyone has their moments of difficulty. Everyone has seasons where they feel lost, overwhelmed, or unsure. When you reach out, you're not being a burden. You're opening a door for connection, for comfort, for healing. And the truth is, most people want to help. Most people feel more connected when they are invited to support someone they care about. Asking for help gives others permission to show up with their strengths, their compassion, their care. It builds bridges, it deepens trust. It creates the kind of connection that reminds us we're not alone. That life, while difficult at times, is also full of people who are willing to stand beside us, if only we let them in. There's also wisdom in knowing what kind of help you need. Sometimes it's emotional, someone to talk to listen without judgment. Sometimes it's practical, guidance, a resource, a helping hand. Sometimes it's professional, therapy, coaching, or support from someone with experience. There is no shame in seeking help in any of these forms. In fact, There's strength in recognizing that you don't need to have all the answers, that your well-being is worth the investment, that getting help isn't a sign you're failing, it's a sign you're committed to growing. When you ask for help, you also model healthy behavior for others. You show them that it's okay to need support, that they don't have to suffer in silence. You break the cycle of pretending everything's fine when it's not. You create a ripple effect of openness, honesty, and shared strength. Because the truth is, we are all stronger together. No one climbs every mountain alone. Behind every success story is a network of support, encouragement, and connection. Letting people in doesn't make you less, it makes you more resilient, more grounded, more connected to the world around you. It reminds you that you are not alone in your struggles, and that even in your hardest moments, there are hands willing to hold you up. You may not need them all the time, but knowing they're there changes everything. It gives you a sense of safety, a sense of belonging, and that belonging creates space for healing. Sometimes the hardest person to ask for help is yourself. We try to push through, to stay strong, to keep going no matter what, but there is no shame in slowing down, in saying, I need rest, I need space, I need to care for myself right now. Self-support is just as important as support from others. Giving yourself permission to pause, to acknowledge your needs, to honor your limits. That too is a form of help, and it's one that only you can give. Help doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be quiet. It can be asking for someone to sit with you in silence. It can be sending a message that simply says, I'm struggling today. It can be admitting that you don't have it all together, and that's okay. You don't need to fall apart to ask for help. You just need to recognize that your well-being matters, that you deserve care, support, and love, just like anyone else. Life is full of peaks and valleys. There will be times when you're the one offering support and times when you need to receive it, and both are sacred, both are valid. You are not stronger for carrying everything alone. You are stronger for knowing when to set something down and say, can you help me with this? That kind of honesty, that kind of courage is what makes you truly resilient. So, if you need help, ask, speak up, reach out. Don't wait until you're breaking to let someone in. Your struggle doesn't have to be big to be valid. You don't have to justify your pain. You don't have to prove your strength. You are already strong for being here, for continuing to move forward, for choosing to live with honesty. You are not alone. You never were. And the moment you choose to open up, to ask for help, to accept support, to allow others into your journey, you begin to remember that truth. Life is not meant to be walked in isolation. It is meant to be shared. And there is no shame in that. There is only strength. Passion is beautiful. It's electric. It's the fire that lights your eyes, the spark that pulls you out of bed in the morning, the feeling that tells you this matters. When you're passionate about something, it feels like the universe is whispering to your soul. It fuels your excitement, fills your mind with ideas, and infuses your dreams with color and life. But passion by itself is not enough. Passion can start the journey, but it cannot finish it. Passion can inspire you to begin, but it cannot carry you through the messy, uncomfortable, difficult middle. For that, you need something else. Discipline, consistency, and the willingness to show up even when the passion isn't burning quite so bright. We often glorify passion in our culture. We tell people to follow their passion, chase their dreams, do what they love. And those words carry power, but they also carry risk. Because passion without structure fades. Passion without effort becomes just another fleeting feeling. It feels good in the moment, but without action, it never takes root. It's easy to fall in love with the idea of doing something meaningful. It's harder to commit to the daily, unglamorous grind that makes that meaning real. The truth is, real success is often built in quiet hours. It's shaped in the early mornings and late nights, in the hours when no one is watching, when the work is hard and the outcome is uncertain. Passion can carry you through those first few steps, but discipline is what keeps you going. Execution is what makes the difference between a dream and a reality. You can be passionate about writing, but unless you sit down and put words on the page, the story remains in your head. You can be passionate about health, but unless you build a habit around movement and nutrition, the passion won't protect you from poor results. Passion is the compass, but discipline is the vehicle. Let your passion guide you. Let it point you toward what matters. Let it inspire the vision. But don't confuse inspiration for progress. Progress is built on commitment. It's built on showing up when you don't feel like it, on choosing effort over comfort, on doing the thing again and again until it becomes a part of who you are. Passion burns hot and fast. Discipline burns steady and long. Think about anyone you admire. The artist, the athlete, the entrepreneur, the leader. Yes, they are passionate, but more importantly, they are consistent. They've learned how to work when motivation is missing. They've built systems that carry them through resistance. They've embraced boredom, repetition, and failure as part of the path. Their passion didn't excuse them from the process, it guided them through it. And it's because of their effort, not just their enthusiasm, that we know their names. Passion without structure can also be misleading. It can convince you that if something gets hard, it's no longer right, that if the excitement fades, you've chosen the wrong path. But anything worth building will test you. Anything meaningful will challenge your commitment. And it's in those moments, the hard ones, the quiet ones, the uninspired ones, that discipline keeps you moving forward. That's why it's so important not to wait for passion to strike before you take action. Passion may not always show up, but your choice to keep going can. It's okay for passion to ebb and flow. That's normal. That's human. But when you anchor your work in discipline, you keep building even when the feeling isn't there. You stop relying on emotion and start trusting your commitment. You begin to develop grit, and grit is what turns vision into reality. Grit is what shows up when passion is tired. Grit is what says, "This still matters even if I'm not feeling it today." The relationship between passion and effort is like the relationship between wind and a sail. The wind can move you, it can inspire motion, but without a sail, without structure and direction, you drift. The sail catches the energy and puts it to use. Discipline is the sail. It gives passion a purpose. It gives your energy direction. And when both are present, when passion and discipline work together, that's when extraordinary things are built. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait until the inspiration returns. Start now with what you have. Build habits that support your passion. Set small, consistent goals. Create systems that keep you on track, even when your motivation dips. These things may feel simple, even boring, but they are powerful because they anchor you, they protect your vision, they help you keep going, one step at a time. And remember, effort doesn't mean forcing. It doesn't mean burning yourself out or pushing through at all costs. It means honoring your passion by giving it a structure to live in. It means showing up with respect for the process. It means being patient with your progress and proud of your persistence. It means holding space for the fact that you can be passionate and tired, excited and frustrated, inspired and unsure. All of it can be true at once. The key is to keep going anyway. Let passion be your North Star. Let it remind you why you started. Let it infuse your work with energy, with purpose, with heart. But don't ask it to do all the work. Show up with your hands, your focus, your time. Put effort behind your enthusiasm. Give your dreams a place to grow, not just in your heart, but in your habits. At the end of the day, passion makes things feel alive, but effort makes them real. Effort turns the spark into a steady flame. Effort builds the thing, one brick at a time. Passion may open the door, but effort is what carries you through it, and discipline is what helps you stay the course. So yes, be passionate, dream big, feel inspired, let your heart lead, but back it up with daily effort, with quiet discipline, with the kind of commitment that shows up even when it's hard, because in the end, what you build with passion and persistence will mean more than anything that came easy. We often live as though joy is something waiting for us on the horizon, as though it only exists in grand achievements, special occasions, or milestone moments. We think it's something to chase, something that will finally arrive when we've done enough, earned enough, become enough. But the truth is, joy doesn't only live in the extraordinary. It's not hiding in some distant future or locked behind some perfect version of life. Joy is here, now, quietly tucked into the folds of ordinary days. It's in the moments we often rush through, overlook, or dismiss. And when we learn to slow down and pay attention, we begin to see what was always there. Magic in the everyday. There's a quiet kind of joy in the way the morning light spills across your floor, in the warmth of your first sip of coffee or tea, in the sound of laughter from another room, in the way a song makes you close your eyes and remember something that still makes you smile. These moments aren't loud, they're not staged or scheduled, but they carry something real, something steady, something that grounds you in presence and reminds you that life doesn't have to be extraordinary to be meaningful. We live in a world that tells us to aim higher, do more, achieve bigger. And there's nothing wrong with ambition, but when we tie our happiness only to the highlights, we miss the beauty of the in-between. Most of life is not made of peak moments. It's made of ordinary hours, of simple meals, small gestures, quiet conversations, and subtle feelings. And if we're always waiting for the next big thing, we overlook the small things that are already enough. Joy found in the ordinary teaches us to live with awareness. It invites us to be present, to notice the feeling of the sun on our skin, the rhythm of our breath, the way a familiar scent stirs up warmth in our chest. It reminds us that happiness is not just something we feel, it's something we notice. Something we choose to make room for in the midst of the chaos, the routine, the repetition. There's joy in a handwritten note, in a deep breath after a long day, in watching the rain tap gently on the window, in sharing a meal without rushing, in seeing a stranger smile, in hearing the voice of someone you love. These things may seem small, but they're not insignificant. They are the texture of life, the soft moments that weave meaning into our days when we're willing to slow down enough to feel them. Finding joy in the ordinary doesn't mean you stop dreaming. It doesn't mean you settle or stop striving. It simply means you stop postponing your happiness until everything is perfect. It means you recognize that life doesn't start someday. It's already happening. And within that, there are countless opportunities to pause, to appreciate, to feel something real. Joy becomes not a destination, but a way of seeing. Sometimes we think happiness requires excitement, that it has to be loud or shared or photographed. But some of the deepest joy is quiet. It's internal. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And the more we learn to listen for those whispers, the more connected we feel, not just to life, but to ourselves. Because joy doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives in the stillness, in the silence, in the smallest shift in perspective. Joy in the ordinary also teaches us gratitude. When you can find beauty in a slow walk, in a clean room, in the sound of birds at sunrise, you begin to see life differently. You stop taking things for granted. You stop waiting for extraordinary circumstances to feel alive. You begin to see what's always been there, the gift of the present moment. Gratitude expands joy. It softens the edges of stress. It opens your heart to the goodness that already exists. You don't need a perfect day to feel joyful. You don't need everything to be in place. You can be tired and still notice the beauty in someone's laugh. You can be stressed and still feel the comfort of a warm blanket or a kind word. Joy and struggle can coexist. They often do. Life is not either or, it's both. And when you allow yourself to find joy in the middle of the mess, you begin to live more fully, more honestly. There's joy in creating something, even if it's imperfect, in watching something grow, in learning something new, in sharing a moment that doesn't need to be explained. There's joy in letting go of expectations and just being. In your body, in your breath, in your life, not fixing, not achieving, just being. And in that being there is peace. A deep, steady kind of peace that doesn't ask for anything more than what is already here. When you stop waiting for joy to come in the future, you begin to realize how much of it was already here. In the way your body stretches in the morning, in the comfort of your favorite sweater, in the rhythm of your footsteps, in the way someone says your name. These moments are not dramatic, they won't trend or go viral, but they are real, and they are enough. Joy in the ordinary is not accidental, it's intentional, it's a practice, a perspective, a choice. It means looking at your life with fresh eyes. It means asking, what's beautiful here? What's working? What feels good right now? It's about presence over perfection, depth over drama, contentment over comparison. So take a breath, look around, listen, feel. Life is not waiting for you in the distance. It's unfolding right here, in this moment, in these small, sacred spaces. You don't have to do anything grand to feel joy. You just have to be willing to notice it. Joy is not always found in new places. Sometimes it's found in seeing familiar places with new eyes. Sometimes it's found in the space between things, in the pauses, in the patterns, in the perfectly ordinary parts of life that, once you really look, don't feel ordinary at all.